Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'll get you to come to attention. Look, please all be upstanding, and I'm going to welcome Michelle Coe from Connect Church to lead us in prayer. Welcome, Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, on earth as it is in heaven. Your kingdom come, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, we just pray that your will be done here in the Timaru district. Lord, we just pray that you would give us our daily bread. Lord, we just pray that you would resource our community, that you would meet the needs in our community, Lord God. Lord, we just pray that you would help us to steward our resources wisely. Lord, we just thank you for our mayor and our councillors, Lord God. Lord, we just pray. We thank you for them, for their service, for their willingness to serve our community. We just pray that you continue to grant them wisdom and discernment as they lead our community, Lord God. Lord, we just pray for this meeting today, Lord. We just pray that they would be able to harness the diversity, the power of diversity, Lord God, but also be able to move forward together in unity. In your mighty name we pray. Amen.
Please stay standing for our Council Wastewater.
E re ra e aku ai Māori e maringi atura kia koutou e re ra e aku ai Māori e maringi atura kia koutou e rangi tata ki runga puri ora ki raro te tai o hana te reo ki wai o e ra e ako wai me e.
Kia ora, please be seated. I think we might have a Council Waiteata challenge, elected members versus SLT, just to put a bit of competition into it. We'll set the details of that later. Welcome everyone, great to have you with us, great to see a full public gallery across a number of items on the agenda today, and welcome to anyone that is watching online or watching later on YouTube. Apologies, I have Pleasant Point Community Board in a line. Welcome Jan and Gay from the Community Boards. Great to have you with us. No further apologies. Can I have a mover for that? Councillor Scott, Councillor Parker, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Alrighty, we do have a full agenda and we have a full public forum, so we're going to crack straight into public forum, and I'd first like to welcome Daryl Hall, who is the General Manager of Commondelay Children's Centre. Welcome Daryl, great to have you with us, and the floor is yours. I appreciate you coming and telling us what's going on. Give us an update, thank you.
Kia ora, Mayor Bowen and councillors. It's one of those weird English aristocratic names. It's pronounced Chumley. Who knows? It's one of those things.
I've seen it so many times with grants applications, and I knew I was going to get it
I
wrong.
can't get my staff to agree on one pronunciation. So I'm Daryl Hall. I'm the new General Manager at the Chumley Children's Centre based at Governor's Bay in Littleton Harbour. We provide a free short-term planned and emergency respite service for children aged 5 to 12 throughout Canterbury. We've provided the service for a century this March. Before you today, as through you, as the representatives of the Timaru district, I want to thank the people, volunteers, businesses and donors of the Timaru district for their support of Chumley children. Chumley is a service that belongs to the people of Canterbury and draws support throughout Canterbury, and will continue as long as the people of Canterbury want the service. So our model is a short-term planned respite care, typically 3 nights every 8 weeks. This allows families to plan, to see ahead to when there is a break. But because we're a private entity, we're flexible, and given the distance, from Timaru to Governor's Bay, the short answer to interested families is give us a call and let's talk, because we always try to arrange something to get the kids in. We take about 400 children a year for multiple visits. In the last 2 years, we've cared for 5 children from 3 Timaru district schools. And I think we can do much better than that for your children, and that's why I'm here today. So the children stay at the centre in times of family stress or crisis when they need some time away from home. So that includes single parents without support, at a time of illness, family breakups, grandparents caring for children, times when parents need to cope with mental health challenges. So we fill gaps that allow difficult times to be managed rather than escalated. So we're at the top of the cliff, helping children and their families keep it together, rather than being at the bottom trying to pick up the pieces. So when children stay at Chumley, they get 24/7 support made up of structured social interactions, learning at our school, outdoor activities, structured sleep, routine hygiene, routine meal times, and we have no devices. So really good basics. We've got 1 TV. Our respite service gives families time to breathe and make better decisions for their future. And the children get new experiences, life skills, education. So I'm a Chumley kid myself from the 70s. My mother was 17 when she had me. My father decided not to step up to his responsibilities. A troubled, violent stepfather wasn't able to either. So Chumley was there for my mother and for me, and my job is to make sure we're there for all Canterbury's children. So we're 80% funded privately from trust, grants, events and donations, and 20% from the government. So that's why we've got a great deal of flexibility. People don't need to be referred to our service. People can pick up the phone and decide for themselves whether we suit their family circumstances, and we're not required to fill particular boxes too much, so we can make some flexibility there. So through you, my main message to the people of Timaru is that we are a free service available for them. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Any questions from the team? Thanks, Daryl. Really appreciate that, and thank you for the connection with your own story. Appreciate all the work you do and the service you provide to the district as well as the wider Canterbury. Thanks.
Cool.
Yeah, go for it, Stu.
The 3 children, were they private referrals through schools? How do you operate a wee bit that way, just out of interest?
So referrals can come from a GP, but the main one is from people themselves, the families themselves. They'll hear through a friend. A teacher might say, hey, Chumley might work for you, check it out. And we do things like we have typically a child will come during the day and see whether they want to stay. But because we're not a state institution, if a children doesn't want to stay with us, they leave. So it's quite different from, say, 30 years ago, where if you were placed somewhere, you had to stay. And so we'll work with the families from the district, because it's a couple of hours drive. Maybe they need to stay for 6 days, do 6-day stints. It's all negotiable, because we're private. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Go now to welcome Barry Crossman. Where's Barry? Oh, there he is. Welcome, Barry, and I've met with Barry recently in regard to speed reduction on Claremont Road. Great to have you with us, and Barry will also present a petition which we have, and at the end we'll just receive and note that petition.
Right.
So yeah, floor's yours, Barry, thanks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I've brought this issue to the council meeting as after 4 years of contacting the South Canterbury Road safety personnel, nothing has been achieved. Last contact I had from them, they said that the open speed limit reduction on Claremont Road was being considered, but nothing changed. We think that the Claremont Road is a forgotten road. Other speed limits around Timaru have been changed recently, and these are in less built-up areas. For example, Beaconsfield Road is 80 kilometres, Divins Road is 60, Rockdale Road is 60, and Washlike Flat Road, but Claremont Road stays at open speed limit of 100 kilometres an hour. I'm here representing the 40 households on Claremont Road that signed individual letters to the existing 100 kilometre an hour reduced to a more suitable speed. The section of road that the residents are concerned about is a 3.2 kilometre long from Broccoli's Road to the existing 80 kilometre sign down by the reservoirs. There are approximately 60 homes on the stretch of road and more sections are being added. Claremont Road is used by 4 school buses daily. There is the Barton Road Primary, the Beaconsfield school bus, the Waihi school bus from Winchester, and also there's a high school bus. A concern for the parents of these children waiting to be picked up and later when they're dropped off is the traffic is passing them at the open road speed limit. Some of these children have to cross the road, and a vehicle travelling at 100 km/h is very dangerous. A vehicle at 100 km/h covers 27.7 metres a second, so they're coming onto those kids pretty quickly. We also have many cyclists using the road, and with a few blind corners and the narrow road, a motorist coming around these corners at speed confronts a cyclist very quickly. We realise there is a process to be followed in lowering the speed limit, but our thoughts is why can't the Claremont Road have temporary speed signs installed, like what was done on the Beaconsfield Road from Adair Road to Salisbury, until they finally installed the permanent 80km signs right out to Otapua. Now there's another big issue of concern for the residents, and that is the Barton Road corner on Claremont Road. This corner has become overgrown with flax and trees almost to the roadside, as the photos show. As the council own this piece of land, clearing back to the original boundary, as per the photo also, will greatly improve visibility and the safety. I was speaking to the Barton School bus driver, and he said that's the worst corner on his whole bus run, and even to negotiate. He commented to turn into the Barton Road with a 48-seater bus with the kids on board, he had to go right round the corner before turning back into the Barton Road. To summarise, we request that the speed limit be reduced from Broccoli Road to the existing 80km/h sign on Claremont Road. This could be done simply by using a temporary sign until the formal process is completed, and that the scrubby bush on the council land at the Barton Road corner be removed to improve visibilities. These actions would improve safety for residents, cyclists, bus drivers and the travelling public. Anything you can do as councillors to help us achieve this would be appreciated. Thank you for allowing me to speak on behalf of the residents.
Awesome. Thanks, Barry. Any questions from councillors? And then, Andrew, I'll just get you to talk to the process if you're okay with that. I don't think Susie's here, is she? No. So we'll do questions first. Is there any questions? Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and the process, like all speed limits, is long and arduous and frustrating for residents. But Andrew, could you talk to that? And I think from council's point of view, the officers of driven it are in agreement that it probably should be 80 k's, but it's the process. So could you speak to that, Andrew?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, there is a process for speed limits. It's very much government driven. There's a national speed register, and basically speed limits are set in accordance with certain criteria associated with the speed limit setting rule, which is a government initiative, government rule book. So we have done a recent review of the speed limits, and we have pushed them as low as we potentially can, given that we do have to work within the guidelines that are specified by government and national speed limits. So unfortunately, this government is more aligned to increasing speed limits than lowering them. So it is challenging for us to get them changed.
But the problem with us is Claremont Road is the only artillery road coming into Timaru that is still 100 km/h. All the rest of them are reduced down to safe speed, but 100 km/h is pretty quick coming down Claremont Road. We can't understand why cannot a temporary sign be put there like that was done on the Beaconsfield Road, and then sort of 6 months later it was done permanently. Is that possible, or is it?
I definitely have to look into that and see what was actually determined and why the speed limit was set as it is now.
It does feel like it was missed in the last process, though, for some reason. But that's right, we can dial down on that. And also, we might need to look at the shrubbery on the corner as far as the visual. Stace, did you hear? Sorry, Councillor Scott, and then we'll go
my question, Mr. Crossman, you sort of suggested some frustration with council, and I wonder if Mr. Dixon, you could just talk to us about what communications have been had with this group of people, because if it's been for several years, as suggested, 4 years, I would have thought we probably could have done the process in that 4 years. So can you explain to me why now Mr Crossman and 40 residents are here with frustration?
I'm sorry, I don't know what consultation has been done to date. That's something I'll have to find out, and I'm quite happy to report back on that one.
Yeah, like I think it's the communication's been with road safety previously. I think we've had some change in it. I think it's been missed, but yeah, we'll pick it up. And I have talked with Susie about because there's a heap of requests for speed reduction sitting there at the moment, and so the challenge is one around resourcing, because the process means that you've got to consult with the community in affected areas. Although, you know, yeah, I know, yeah, it's just a long, arduous process. But we'll take that up as an action just to see what more we can do, and we'll come back.
Because the corner on Barton Road, that's been ongoing for 30 plus years. When that farm was split up seemingly years ago, the council took a slice off the corner, out of 45, so that would clear the corner. But the existing fence is still staying there, and the shrubs, the flaxes, trees have all just grown right out to that corner. And it's quite a dangerous corner to negotiate for anybody.
Yeah, I agree, and it's sort of reverse sensitivity as these farms get carved up, more lifestyle is sitting up there, more traffic, and so we need to look at the speed limit. So yeah, we'll make an action to come back to you in the next couple of weeks and see what actions we can take in the short term.
That'd be very appreciated, thank you.
No worries, thanks Barry, nice to see you again. Alrighty, we move now to some speaking on the theatre. So firstly, I'd like to welcome Anne Ellis from the Friends of the Theatre Royal. Welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon. The Friends of the Theatre Royal was a committee convened in 1993 to work under the umbrella of the Timaru District Council. They were formed for a purpose: raise funds and help complete the then restoration. The group personally donated cash, opened a bank account, and began their front of house activities, which included catering as well as tours. You have stood and sat on those purchases, sipped wine from those purchases, and appreciated that the drafts on the auditorium have been somewhat lessened. Artists have benefited from the improvements to the equipment on stage and in dressing rooms. Bars were equipped, the lift installed, and I mention only a fraction of the work. Timaru has highly praised sporting and recreational activities, but Timaru needs a venue to attract New Zealand-wide and overseas shows, especially as it has a theatre to the north and one to the south. And importantly, it must be an affordable venue for local groups and their patrons. You have approved the concept plan from the local architects, and already preliminary work has commenced and completion does seem assured. However, speaking for front of house personnel, and from our interaction with the patrons, we are concerned with the suggestions, as published in the Timaru Herald, that the foyers leading to the circle and stalls, along with the toilet extensions, are to be reduced in size, and that one bar, which in fact also serves as a nibble nook, is sufficient for a theatre of this size and capacity. This has been said numerous times at the meetings that the Friends have attended, but I believe it is worth repeating it again today. that before such changes are made, do please consult with us. The Friends have worked the theatre and know only too well the many problems we have with congestion. Fundraising does seem to be the way to go to complete this project, restore the theatre, and give patrons an enjoyable evening. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Anne. Hold on, stay there. Just check that there's no questions for you. Any questions, team? No, brilliant. Thanks, Anne. Appreciate that. We welcome now Alice. Welcome, Alice. Floor's yours when you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. And I've sat in many of these meetings and I realise that none of this is easy when it comes to spending ratepayers' money, of which I am one, and what is best for our community. Now, for those that don't know me, I'm quite nervous, theatre has been my life, my passion, my work, my happy place. I first auditioned to be a dancer in 1984, and then I spent the next 6 years dancing. I was untrained, but I was hungry for the stage. Then I started singing and got some roles as a singer, and then I fell in love with directing. Over the past 30 years, I have directed nearly 90 shows, many in our Theatre Royal. I have probably worked with over 4,000 children and at least 800 adults, and not just for the South Canterbury Drama League, but for gang shows, holiday programs, and I've worked as a director in Ashburton, Oamaru, Waimate, Geraldine and Timaru. It was heartbreaking to watch the demise of the Theatre Royal, but what has been even harder is the waiting for the council to make up its mind. And a couple of months ago, you did. Despite the distractions and the delaying tactics of plans at the library, Strathallan Corner, and now the Majestic, you made a commitment to the people of Timaru. I know we're not Melbourne, but at the moment, we're not even Waimate. Waimate are about to stage their third major musical in 3 years, Mamma Mia. They went to Chicago, now they're doing Sound of Music. Good on them. They have a theatre. Ashburton last year staged Les Mis. Now they're doing Mary Poppins. I have personally directed over 16 shows in the Ashburton Event Centre, and often sold-out shows. I directed School of Rock and Oamaru 2 years ago. They are now doing, they did Next Bloody Woman, and now they're staging Oliver, because they too, like Ashburton and Waimate, have a theatre. The North Extension was mentioned last week as not being necessary, but as Anne and I both agree, although we've not talked about it, the users and stakeholders have said many times this is the crucial element to the theatre's design, as it will provide more toilets and improved access, reduce queuing times, enhancing the overall audience experience. Trust me, 300 children in that circle, you want toilets. Okay. With additional hospitality facilities, including bars on the stalls and circle levels, these upgrades will open up new revenue streams, make the theatre more versatile for all types of performances, from concerts to events like Jump Jam. This expansion will make the theatre more accessible, attracting tours and shows by offering the facilities needed to accommodate large audiences efficiently. Theatre is an emotional, social, visceral experience. It's very much the social glue of our society. It gives people a place to go, to connect, to share the same passion of the arts. It brings joy to thousands. And what good is infrastructure without colour and vibrancy? Councillors, you must have gone to shows sometimes in your life and felt the buzz of excitement of about to go and see a show. Our theatre is a grand old building and the project managers have done a fantastic job. Some in Timaru cried down the piazza, remember that? And Sea Bay. And yet these facilities make us proud of our town. So please let us be proud of our theatre. The Court Theatre in Christchurch has just opened its new premises, and the city is proud, excited, and always has and always will support the show stage there. This month alone, I am going to see 2 shows out of town. But this is not just about the South Canterbury Drama League. It's so much more. I remember a few years ago somebody made a submission here talking about a brass band conference where there was hundreds of musicians came, and the town was full of people who stayed in motels and ate at restaurants, and the place was just buzzing. All that money, dollars, came into our community because we had a theatre that somebody could use. We have Kapahaka, Flava, Jump Jam, dance studios, touring shows. All these places use theatres. Our town has been starved for the past 6 years of what every other town in New Zealand has. It was once said to me that all communities need to be in balance, but we are not, because our arts community has almost been abandoned. The last time this council made a significant investment in the arts was 30 years ago, the refurbishment of the Theatre Royal. I was there and I performed in that sold-out show. The theatre was full, and we subsequently staged show after show. In that theatre, I have personally seen early Split Enz, Pink Floyd, Dave Dobbin, Neil Finn, Bic Ronga, Smoke Freak Rockquest, Russian Ballet, Carols by Candlelight, Haddon Hair Awards, Big Sing Cadanza, Highland Dancing, Opportunity, Hypnotist Comedian, 7 Days, and as a young girl, I have a really strong memory of my mum bringing me through to see Dave Allen, the comedian. That was a very long time ago. These shows are still coming through, just not here, because we don't have a theatre. At the meeting last Tuesday, the stadium budget and plans were presented, as well as the theatre budget. Following the stadium presentation, councillors were asked if there were any questions. There were a few minor questions, but no one questioned whether the budget was reasonable or not, which was fine. No one came up with a new stadium down the bay for less. So why is our theatre being picked on? Timaru is not just about sport. Questions that I have fielded from people who feel as I do: if you don't go ahead with the theatre, what do you do with the $11 million? And what do you do with the building? Because you can't knock it down. We've had this conversation. It takes a lot for me to say these things. I would much prefer people more eloquent and knowledgeable speak up. But this is my truth. And like most of us, I am frustrated, hurt, worried, and angry. Councillors, for the sake of the future of the arts, the next generation of performers, users and audiences, please have the integrity and the balls to complete what you have said you would. Thank you. I don't want any questions.
It's not, you don't get to decide. Well done, Alice, that was great. Any questions for Alice?
We might get in trouble for not asking a question, Alice. Look, I absolutely, thank you, and I know it's nervous. I feel nervous sitting here every bloody Tuesday, to be honest, but anyway. Thank you for your time, and I absolutely acknowledge your passion and everyone's passion for this, and I'm as frustrated as you, and I know that some people don't think I am, but I am frustrated about this project, and I 100% want it to just open the doors and it is used for the purpose it is meant for, and I mean that wholeheartedly. But we're in a really difficult economic time, and I know that you think we're picking on the theatre, but we're not. And I think we're in a really good position with this design, but there's a lot more to do, and we're very much at the pretty picture stage, and we've got a great team that is now on this, that is looking at ways to value engineer without losing those important things that you talked about. And in the paper today, there is a whole section on areas that they're looking to reduce the cost to keep it within budget, and I'm speaking on behalf of my councillors, but that's all we want, is to keep this within budget so we can open the doors. So today's meeting is really important, and I just want to acknowledge that, you know, how passionate you are, And hopefully today we continue on this trajectory of opening up the doors of the Theatre Royal.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. So when you said within budget, this is the budget that you agreed to last time we met?
So you would have watched the work, oh, I'm talking on behalf of the Mayor probably, sorry. So we obviously had a workshop last week and we were presented and got a lot more detail. So we have two steering groups as well that are fully in on the details, but everyone else got up to speed. So today today is the formal paper that has come here to talk about how they're going to deliver within budget. So today's the day. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And was it Dave Allen, is that correct? Struck a chord with Mr. CE Nige Trainer as well, so it must be a similar era perhaps. Was there another question? Councillor Jackson.
I thought you spoke fantastically, well done. And obviously with passion. And look, you know, I feel the frustration as well. And I'd like to say to the theatre community, thank you for your patience. It's not been easy. It hasn't been easy around the table either. But I think we've got to a stage now whereby, you know, there has been a lot of robust conversation. And I'm probably going to pinch somebody else's words here, but, you know, we have gone from a Rolls-Royce version initially, yeah, and we're now down to a reasonably well-spec'd Toyota. We don't want to go down to an Austin Maxi or an Austin Princess, but, you know, just to use those analogies. But, you know, yeah. You know, I think we're in a pretty good space, and you know, I for one, I put my hand up, and I wanted that first theatre iteration to go ahead. But I think that as we've gone through the process as councillors debating it around the table, and doing that openly and doing that fairly, I think we've landed in a place now whereby I think we've got the best version of what we probably deserve, yeah, and for the size of our community. So, yeah, I hope that you know, we can move forward too.
Was there a question, Councillor?
Yeah, that was my question.
Then I would just like to answer that.
What do you think of that?
Just like to say that I'll take you as at your word. And I hope that the end of the result today is positive and we all go out of here smiling. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice. I have great memories of the Austin Maxi back at high school. It was Car of the Year. Yeah, Car of the Year once. There we go. No, okay.
I don't think it was. So.
Thank you, Alice. Really appreciate that. We'll move on. And just this is more to councillors. We've got a big day, big agenda. We're going to welcome Chris now to speak on the same subjects. So we will try and keep to questions for the day so we can get through it. But welcome, Chris. Yes.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk. I would first say, please resist the urge to cut back on essential features. So I heard what you're saying, OJ and Stacey. This is our chance to build a modern, fully functioning theatre that will serve Timaru for generations. You know, we're not talking about that Austin Maxi that has to go now. It has to go for the next 30, 40 years. There's no value in dumbing it down now and ending up with a white elephant that can't meet the needs of, you know, our community out into the future. We need to, you know, aim for the best facilities we can afford, fit for purpose, for local productions, attractive to national, international touring shows. It's about future-proofing, not shortchanging. In the years to come, our community will thank you for building a theatre that stands the test of time and not one that's cut corners and missed potential. So this is your opportunity, councillors and mayor, to be remembered for vision and not compromise. Let's just not leave our future generations saying, if only they'd invested in doing it right. That's my intro piece, but I actually really want to talk about some fundraising ideas. I was at the workshop last week. It sounds like you had another one since then, have you? No? Okay. So one of the things that was surprising, but, maybe not, is that there was no community fundraising item in the budget for the theatre. It was mentioned, but there was no actual budget around that. So, I've been putting my heads together with a few other people and saying, what could we do around fundraising? What could we do to ensure that the gap between what we want, what we expect, what is necessary, and perhaps what some of the councillors here are prepared to sign off on. My understanding is that the budget that did come in last week was within budget that was permitted, so we are really just talking about extras, unless your councillors think that the report that was given by the consultant is incorrect. So if we looked at the opportunities, very simple, I'll just run through a few quick ideas, some of which could take off very quickly. We could basically do a take your seat, sale of a seat campaign where people can buy a personalised plaque on a seat. We could have some tiered pricing depending on where the location in the theatre was. They would get an invite maybe to a special preview, backstage tour, I don't know what, but the idea of selling a seat, I think, is something that the community could very quickly get around and purchase. Part of the theatre is going to be demolished. What could we do with all those bricks? We could sell them off as symbolic, pieces of heritage from the theatre. Perhaps we have some sort of name put onto them and people donated to buy a brick. We could repeat what was done in 1993. Remember that number, 1993. That was the last time that there was any serious money spent on the theatre. So in 1993, there was a big gala show, sort of red carpet type thing. Not quite the Met Gala that's going on today, apparently, but something like that. Perhaps with, an auction, sort of engaged donors, but certainly some sort of great grand opening event. Another idea that I would like to pitch to the council is to actually have a heritage levy or a theatre levy on all the tickets that were sold through the theatre for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years or something like that. And that would be relatively modest, maybe $2, $3, $4, $5 or something like that, but that's added to every ticket that's generated, and it goes into the restoration or the upkeep or the maintenance of the theatre. I think if we did that, we need to make sure that we, that it's transparent. It's not just going into perhaps paying interest or things like that, but it's actually going to upkeep. I mean, there's obviously other things, naming rights. We could do, obviously, crowdfunding, community days, backstage tours, all sorts of things. So realistically, over the time span that the construction phase of the theatre until it's open, I would expect that with all of these sorts of things, we could probably look at raising around $2 million, which is, a reasonable chunk of the theatre. I don't think that's unreasonable. It's difficult and challenging, and we would need to get a clear structure in place for how those funds could be generated, or a structure to allow them to be generated, and probably a dedicated fundraiser. But I do think that the community would buy into that, and there would be, it would generate sort of community pride and ownership of the theatre. So I would propose that as part of perhaps the decisions today, there is at least a move to allow or permit that sort of fundraising to start. And a final thing, you know, I just got an email, sorry, I meant to print it out, but I just got an email from a parent who has travelled to Timaru for theatre-related things, and their daughter came here as a very inexperienced young singer and musician about 5 years ago, and that mother wrote to me to say that her daughter is now studying theatre full-time in Australia because of the experience that they had coming to Timaru. And that's the sort of thing that we can do. We can actually change people's lives by having them involved in theatre. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you, Chris. Appreciate you coming again. Us feel like Groundhog Day almost, doesn't it? Answer to the allowed to fundraise. Yes, tick. Will heavily support anything. Ultimately, any funds that are raised will be savings or extra, as you have alluded to. So there's definitely benefit for everyone. I think you hit the nail on the head, and I just wanted to explain. 1993 was the last date where there's key capital investment, and this is a lesson for councils, but also ratepayers. In that period, you spend a whole lot of capital there, and we're about to spend a whole lot of capital again. No repairs and maintenance in 30 years. And that's the problem that councils across the country are getting their heads around at the moment. And we have to allow for those R&M funds to do that work. And the problem that we had through a period, whether it's right or wrong, is that rates were too low. They were at 1% when inflation was running at 3%, when we should have been upgrading our buildings and doing that basic R&M, and that's the problem with our system. So we have to get ahead of that. Slightly off topic, because that's across not just the theatre, it's across the libraries and all of our vertical builds, but it is a key challenge. Yeah, of course you can.
Just make a comment on that. That's why a suggestion like the heritage levy is, it's user pays, but user pays a very little bit that contributes over a longer period of time, so I think that's a very good option.
And if it's a levy, it's not a tax. No, I'm just having fun. Councillor Burt.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks to the other speakers. Look, I hope you're going to go away from here today and actually put that into action. So don't be afraid to jump in, own it, lead it, but actually do all those, or as many as you can, to show contribution from the major stakeholder in this venture. We've spoken about it before, and we have many examples. Seabay, there's 3 people in the room here who raised $6 million for that when it first got going, and we did it on our own back. We've got Sea Play, same thing and everything. We've got now the stadium and the sporting entities are going to be behind that. So please, we've still got plenty of time and everything. Make sure that you know and understand there is resources and support from us. But please, let's see some structure and really go away and put that into play. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're keen to support those.
Is what do you think about that?
Thank you. Let me make a comment. Is that if we go away from here, I guess, with a decision that says that the theatre is not going to go ahead for whatever reason, then I would say all bets are off, and I don't think we'll get any sort of community support, so, yeah.
Alrighty. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Alrighty. In the interest of getting home before midnight, we're going to move on. So I'm going to go to the agenda now. Urgent business. Any urgent business items? No. I've got minor nature items already. I'll just read them out. I've got showgrounds on the culvert from Councillor Piddington, Caroline Bay Master Plan, Regional Deals Infrastructure Fund, Airport Extension from Councillor Scott. Anything further from any team members? Yeah, totally, and we'll address that. Yep, got those recorded as well. Perfect. Everyone comfortable with those items? Yeah, okay. Conflicts of interest. Anything regarding the agenda? So my approach is going to be same in regard to the theatre project as I did last time, which was I was going to abstain and just chair it if you're all still comfortable with that approach. Just give me a couple of nods or shakes. Yep, cool. Okay, perfect. We go now to confirmation of minutes. Council meeting on 1st of April, which is 7.1. Can I have a mover for that? Thank you, Councillor Burt. Councillor Parker, thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 7.2, extraordinary council meeting held on the 15th of April. Another mover, Councillor Shannon. Councillor Burt. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Schedules of functions attended, firstly by myself, Deputy Mayor and councillors. Appreciate all the work. Thank you for the mover, Councillor Booth and Councillor Oliver, the seconder. Big thank you to all those that were involved in the Anzac Day parades. It's really important work across the district. Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 8.2, schedule of functions attended by the Chief Executive. Happy to move that from the Chair. Councillor Scott, happy to second that. Any discussion? No. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Alrighty, first report, which is 9.1, Theatre Royal and Museum Project. Welcome the Pauls. Separation. Alrighty, pass to you, team. Lead us in.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. Just one point of clarification. I think the Princess was one of the finest examples of British engineering that any of us have had the pleasure of seeing, especially the one with the vinyl roof. But in terms of the theatre and museum project, Paul and I today are just presenting this report. Because we've been through it in some detail at a workshop only last week, I think it's probably simplest to just be available to answer any questions that may arise. But happy to take those.
Cool, awesome. So nothing further to add? Comfortable with that? Okay, so I'll get my own agenda up to date. Where are we? So we'll go to the floor for questions, and we'll try and be rather regimented through this. So we'll deal with questions and then we'll deal with the process if there's any debate under standing orders as such. So if we can deal with just questions first, let's get those all out there. Councillor Pye, thank you.
A very simple one to start with. Have we had an update on the Ministry of Funding? Because this report seems to suggest a different outcome than what we've had in the past, in that the projects have to be done together to secure that funding, whereas in the past we've kind of been led to believe that if they were staged and still completed in a time frame, would receive the funding.
That hasn't really changed, but that time frame for the end is getting concertinaed. That's the issue. And the Ministry's funding is and always has been contingent on a commitment to what was the Heritage Hub, which was the theatre and the museum. It's got a different form now, but I think it would be challenging for the Ministry if there was commitment to part of the project and not the rest of it, given their commitment to the funding. We are still... We have a draft of the revised milestones, and that's been socialised and passed to MBIE. The final tick in the box is just contingent on the outcome of this meeting, to commitment to go forwards.
Go down this side. Anyone else over here at the moment? No, we'll go to my left. No, it's going to be quick. I allocated 20 to 30 minutes for this, but no. Councillor Booth.
Yeah, look, just I guess I'm just thinking about, I just look back in our process from our previous experience in trying to get this off the ground, and we did an initial concept which had an estimate, concept estimate summary with it back in on the 6th of the 5th of 21, which is 4 years ago. Estimate was 28 million, 28.3 based on off concept plans. That ended up, we all know where that ended up, and it got ditched, and that was 57 million. So I guess I'm looking at your financial summary on page 73. And I'm just looking at your description of the cost plan. It's called a high-level cost plan. And that is what you base your numbers on. We know that you need to go through to preliminary design and then onto detailed design before you really do get some numbers, if that's how we're going to operate. So I guess would like some surety that we're all not going to start tearing into this and we're going to spend another $3 million on pretty pictures and stuff and come back and say it's going to be 35 million. And that's what my biggest concern is. So can you give me confidence? I mean, I'm not sure how you can do that, but...
Well, yes, hopefully I can. So that's why we've generated 20% contingency. In any project, whether it's this or a stadium or a library or a new football ground, whatever it is, you start with a high level and you've got to generate enough contingency to be commensurate with the stage of the project and the risk that you're at. We're actually in a pretty good position now, believe it or not, because you've been through the hoops so many times. We've been there. We have got some really good solid costings on the essential elements. So the essential elements are being the elements that, I call it the specialist elements. Every building's got steel and it's got concrete, it's got pipes and it's got wires. You know, the theatre's got theatre equipment. The museum's got specialist fit-outs. It's those elements there which tend to be the areas of uncertainty. In the industry, we all know what steel costs. We all know what concrete costs. We all know what it costs per square metre. And I'm pretty happy with where these numbers are. But I would stress again, and it's very clear in the report, that these are exclusive of contingency. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to spend all the 20% contingency. I really hope we don't. And it's great to hear that Chris and the theatre community are looking to raise fundraising. It's my philosophy never to be dependent on fundraising for the essential elements. But fundraising, great. It either reduces the borrowing or it pays for the extra bells and whistles and gold and silver plating. But where we're at now, which is these numbers here, I'm pretty confident on, so long as we've got a reasonable contingency. When we presented to PSG, there was a 10% contingency left, and I was wincing going, that's not enough. Through the value engineering, we've generated 20, and at this stage of the project, 20% is adequate. And you're quite right, Councillor Jackson, you did steal my words. If you're going to buy a new car, you know what money you've got. You walk around the BMW showroom, and if you can't afford it, then you go and buy your Toyota. It's still a perfectly serviceable vehicle. And that's where we're at now. We're just working out which model it is that we can afford. It's not that we can't afford the car, it's just which model.
Councillor Scott.
Just have 4 questions, but my point 14 on page 36, it talks about the concept design in attachment 1 has been developed based on Council's resolution. This report seeks Council's endorsement of the expanded concept design. And I just wondered if you could explain to me what the word expanded concept design means.
Well, the architects have been working on the concept design since November. That was pretty well images. I think somebody said pretty pictures. But the engineering side of that, the dimensions and the constructability and all the next stage of that development, taking it into preliminary design is what's been going on. And that's what's tabled and included in the report. So that is further advanced than it's the last time I said the pretty pictures that you saw. It has been expanded to look at dimensions and levels and constructability and site topography and all of those good things that start to hone it down into more detail.
Yeah, because to us it's still a pretty picture. So just reminding you of that because you're all over the detail. My question is around museum project, and my understanding is this is a separate project and it needs to be put out to tender and it's a new build. So can you just talk me through how we've got to all of a sudden it's one project in its entirety? Because my understanding is that even in that resolution, the museum was going to be looked at 2 to 3 years down the track, but all of a sudden we're under pressure to make decisions about a museum when honestly we are here for the theatre. And Where I'm going is I am very concerned that the museum will become the poor cousins of this project, because we'll have one budget and they will end up with smaller budget because we'll have blowouts on the theatre. So, Mr. Cooper, the question is to you, is how are we still having two separate projects, or what's happened here?
Yes and no. He's reliably unreliable, yes. No, yes and no, in that the design component will be, it is kind of one project, but it's staged. So at one point in the middle there will be a point for several months in the middle of the build where there's the museum and the theatre being worked on over the same period. While one's being finished off, you'll be well into the other one. The design is for, the tender for the design was for both. So we've gone forward with the theatre to a point, and we're now at a point after today, if that's the direction that we sign up to as a council, then that's the direction we'll launch in with the theatre. But in doing so, we are also bringing in the museum. So that's part of the point of why we're here today, is to bring that into the discussion as well, with a view to starting that process, albeit staged, around the middle of the year for preliminary design, is it, or later?
To be very clear, this is around the MB funding. So when we had our meeting, we hadn't gone back to MB. We've gone back to MB, and it is the Heritage Hub. So both projects have to be done to secure the MB funding. And also, the timing of it having to be done has been brought forward to what we otherwise would have wanted. And they were non-negotiable. This is the date, otherwise the money's off the table for both. So effectively, they are 100% connected through MB.
And the two buildings are on the same campus. The laneway is the common element that connects the two. We do have shared facilities. There's no point putting two separate power cables and two separate transformers and two separate water mains. So there's efficiencies to be had in integrating certainly the preliminary design for both buildings as a campus design. It puts everything in the ground that we need to. It builds the entire laneway. It prepares a building platform for the museum. You go ahead and build the theatre. Whether or not we have one or two contractors will be a function of the EOI that we'll put out, and that's the market will inform us of that. But I think it would be a wrong decision to say, well, we're not going to build all of the laneway, because you'll end up just digging half of it up again to facilitate whatever goes on that site, museum or whatever, in the future. So there's lots of integrated elements, and that's why it is being designed by the design team, and we've got a kick-off meeting penciled in for tomorrow. I'm hopefully not going to cancel it with the guys, but the designers are coming in so that we can kick off the preliminary design for the entire campus to make sure we understand the future needs and get everything in the ground, from the offset.
Sorry, Councillor Piddington, is yours in regard to that? Yeah, just follow on and then I'll go back to Councillor Scott.
I'm with Councillor Scott. I'm concerned we're suddenly going to be two projects. One becomes a poor cousin, or they both go over budget. It's news to me today that we've been given a deadline from MB. What date is that deadline?
Through you, Your Worship. That deadline was, I think we have bubbled that into, we have brought that to the attention of councillors. I'm sure we have. It's definitely at the PSG, PCG and stakeholders were aware, because we talked about it, that December 26 is when we have to have finished both projects in order to have fully secured that MB money. What MB have indicated is if we veer off the indicative timeline then we've given them to achieve that cut-off, then that MB funding is significantly at risk.
So the project, we've gone from it's gone to significantly at risk. Can we actually get from them in writing what it is? Because I'm nervous for the ratepayers that we're going to suddenly join these two projects in a hurry, and history tells us on our vertical builds they always go over.
Through you, Worship, we have it in writing. So the funding is split into two components, but it's connected. So effectively, once we sign the contract for the museum, for the theatre, we can draw a certain proportion down, and then we also will draw the second portion down for the museum when that contract is signed. But they want it done by December 26, which will be tight for us, but that's the date and is clear in writing.
The project has to be completed by that date, or we have to agree to. I'm just trying to get some clarity. So the projects have to be completed by December 26, or do we have to indicate we're doing both by December 26?
Councillor, first and foremost, MB is looking for commitment that we're not going to build the theatre and then just never build the museum. So at the moment, the date is the end of 26. That is challenging. But if it was the first quarter of 27, I don't think that would be an issue, as long as there's a commitment that the museum will be built. And I think we all have the same concern of a poor cousin or being left behind. For me, the way to mitigate the museum being the poor cousin is to construct them both at the same time, whether there's one project or two projects, whether it's one contractor or two contractors. The way to mitigate that is to manage it, because otherwise you do run the risk of finishing one, letting it go over, and you have no money left for the second. Look, I won't allow that to happen. I had a very similar issue on a previous project, stage 1 and stage 2, and that's exactly how we managed it, and that was shovel-ready funding as well. So the way to mitigate against a poor cousin is actually to commit to it all now and trust us to build it.
Sorry, Mr. Trainer, you said, you talked about, I might have misunderstood this, you talked about two contracts. So if this is, no, so you,
One
so
contract,
one
contract and
oh, yeah.
two drawdown dates.
So
And that's quite normal.
Oh, yeah, no, so the current contract that's in play, the professional fees are for the both projects, the theatre and the museum.
That's correct as far as concept and preliminary is concerned, yes. And I have pricing, separate pricing for each of the two elements. So after the common elements, which just need to be designed now together, we've got separate pricing for the museum and the theatre. And the design programme shows that we then progress from preliminary to detailed design for the theatre and get that underway, and then immediately to detailed design for the museum and get that underway. The museum will be a shorter build, so there's a stagger, but then there will be overlapped, and the end dates are, at the moment, according to my programme, as per the paper, are pretty similar.
So the contract being signed by DLA New Love Browning is one contract for the entire, because,
no,
is that correct?
No, it's not correct. We've signed a contract for the preliminary.
For the theatre?
Fixed.
Yeah.
No, we are signing contracts with all the design team for the concept and preliminary design for the whole campus, which is the theatre and the museum, because that needs to be done to get the blocking, the stacking, the positioning, the services, and then from that point we split it. We have separate design process, and we will agree the fee at that point. We've got the maximum of the worst case fees, so we will then fix the fee for the theatre and fix the fee for the museum at the end of preliminary design once the programme is actually ready.
Because in your pretty picture, your jigsaw, you said that this included all of the professional fees, concept. Oh, yeah, okay. So, so it's one contract. That's what I'm trying to ascertain. So one contract, one set of professional fees. That's what we're agreeing to.
Okay. But that number there will include the professional fees, the consenting fees, the construction fees, so the number for each of those jigsaw pieces is the inclusive number for fees, consents, construction, to try and simplify it. Maybe I've made it more complicated by doing that. But.
Okay. Page 73, just moving to the same document as Councillor Booth was on. We've talked about the insurance for the roof repairs, and but in this you're suggesting that spend is outside of the current budget, but it's always been within because it belongs to it. So I'm unsure why you'd think that's a wee bonus, because really, that belongs to this project anyway, and so should be used within in that budget.
And that's fine. I couldn't get an answer if that was part of the 29.2 or not. If it is, it is. It's not. It's $200,000, which is $280,000.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
is a decent chunk of money
It is.
in your own account, but it's in the scheme of things, it's not hugely material.
Okay, and then my next question was just around point 6, which is awesome, saying that there are still some significant areas of to be addressed through design and VE processes, which is great. So to me, hopefully that demonstrates there'll be some more cost savings in there.
No, what the paper says is that my jigsaw numbers are, you've got one in the paper which is pre-value engineering,
Yep.
and one post-value engineering. The post-value engineering is those.
Yep,
So if
okay.
we achieve those targets, or when we achieve those targets, then the numbers I've got there, which is 23.4 for the theatre exclusive.
So that includes,
Yeah,
this
that
is,
includes
okay,
those
right,
savings.
that's good.
And that's not to say that there'll be
No, that's
the
good,
only
yep.
savings.
Got it, that's good. Okay, and so my question then is, we're in a position, we're at that early stage, and the CEO, Mr. Traynor, currently has delegation to 24 million. And so it was great to see that the project team have got that within that window, noting that the contingency isn't there of 20%. Now today we've heard the theatre community say that they would love to do some community fundraising, and their aspirations is for 2 million, which is amazing. So when we're at this early stage of concept design, I feel that the current resolution that we have on the ground, which is for Mr. Traynor to have his $24 million and don't come back to us message, even though the resolution doesn't quite say that, I feel at this stage of the project should be kept in place. And the reasons I say that is because the project team and your professional services should be listening to the messaging that's coming from this chamber. And we've also heard that the theatre community do not want to lose some of the elements that they have been shown. And so I've got to challenge the project team to continue their great work, but find the cost savings within that 24 million and don't come back to this chamber. And I truly believe that you can do that, because we're at that early stage and there's so much more work to be done. And if all those professional services are sitting here and listening to this and they want this job, then they will also sharpen their pencils and find the cost savings to make sure that this project goes ahead. And so I challenge you to continue to keep it within this $24 million window, so it opens the doors for our community, and that Mr. Traynor continues to have that delegation of 24 million.
Alrighty, what we will do, we'll get back to questions for now.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah, of course you can, yep. And I'll go to Councillor Pennington.
Right at the moment, while I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge we've got the challenge there, right at the moment, then I think that will create a delay, because I cannot give a go-ahead of a project when it's 23.4 with no contingency. So the way I see it, with a $24 million delegation, I have to wait until detailed design to get more certainty on that number, because otherwise I could kick off, start it on 23.4, and then suddenly we get some detailed design and it's, well, I don't know, use Councillor Booth's concern that suddenly it's 35. Well, we've committed then, it's too late. So we're going to have to be careful here of how we actually do this, because right at the moment, time's of the essence, and the detailed design won't be finished until November. So effectively, no work happens until November, apart from the design.
But
That's my reading of it.
But Mr. Traynor, when you do a project like this, the 20% contingency is used in the build phase. It's for those unexpected things that happen, whether it's in civil works on the ground, whether it's something like that. The 20% contingency is not used through the design phase, and so you would normally get it to concept and final design, and then you would add your contingency on top of that. You're suggesting to me that when it starts to go up, that you're gonna dive into that contingency to get this project across the ground.
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying we cannot commit to spend. I can't commit to spend knowing full well that it potentially could blow out to 26 with a 20% contingency. I'm committing to a build of 24. That's my delegation. I have to have confidence it can be built for 24. That confidence only comes when there's a detailed design on the table and it's been QS'd. The team want to get started now with earthworks. So effectively, that has to wait. And I'm quite clear on this because it may come earlier. It might be when we do our provisional design. We might know a better price then. But at the moment, even as you say, we've got a picture. That's all we've got. And we've got some QS, right? The previous project was rejected because the contingency was too low. And now I'm being asked to go into a project at 24 million with no contingency. So effectively, I'm actually going into a project looking for a design that's going to cost us 22, according to these documents, to give myself that contingency. Now, if that is what you're wanting, I need that clear direction, because at the moment, there's going to be a time to be held. And if I don't get that clear direction, then we're going to be waiting until we get some better numbers.
But you just suggested then that you weren't going to start any civil work until you got to a certain
If we
layer.
had confirmation that the 29.2 was there, I'd feel more confident. But at some point, you may or may not have to come back. We don't know that until we've got more design. If they want to get the civil work started, we've got to understand that it could go as high as 29.2. We're aiming at 24, but that's out of my control. But I can pull back layers of it. I'll probably do that in consultation with the user group. But at the moment, these are pretty high level numbers.
So you're not willing to pull back the layers within this current window that you have in the concept design phase to keep this project going. You're not even willing to try and pull back those layers right now.
Well, again, the user group is saying, please do not take off stuff that we might regret later. Effectively, that's what I'm being asked to do. And yeah, I'll do it. I certainly will do it. But I need direction from you.
These numbers in the resolutions are the numbers that sit within our LTP. There's opportunities to govern over this, not directly through council, but through the steering groups on both projects as well. So I'm just conscious that a lesson that we have learnt from the past is every iteration it has to come back through council, it slows, it adds cost, and nothing gets done. I would love across our projects today that we can get to a point where the staff, the CE, can just go on, get some stuff done across all our projects, and then we can focus on cost savings and other elements across OPEX that we need to be looking at as far as council. Let's go to Councillor Piddington, and then we'll move into, if there's no further questions, we'll move into the debate.
I can save you 3.8 million. Look, I get architects want to have grandeur, same if you want to build your own home, you go full hog. But $3.8 million on laneways, which are brick pavers, to two buildings that have no natural connection. Largely, 95% of the time, the museum will be closed well before the theatre opens. For 100 years, we've walked around the block. And I mean, I'm being challenged by other things within that budget as well. But I think those laneways costed at 3.8. We just get rid of them, save the money, and then we're almost on budget. I've been challenged that we did another master plan for Caroline Bay that we've tucked in the bottom drawer and forgotten about because we've told people we've got no money for it. So while it's fine to be in silos for some things, ratepayers are concerned about a whole raft of issues. I'm happy for the theatre to go ahead, but I'm with Councillor Scott at 24 million. You know, the costings of 3.1 for the northern extension, I get it's been congested and we'd like a function room, but there's function rooms all over Timaru that aren't being used now. So we're committing money, I feel, on things that aren't essential to get a theatre open. Perhaps it does lift your experience if it wasn't crowded at the bar, but it's not $3.1 million worth. So we need to get real on our numbers. And that's all I'll say. I'm happy to support it to 24 million, a cent over, and I'm a vote no.
I'll just jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Burt.
I just want to get the correct title around a laneway. It's not just for people to walk. It's not about walking around the park. It's about using large trucks accessibility, and that's from both ends right through straight from one way, so that those trucks can come through. That adds a significant amount of cost to that. Is that correct?
So the truck access is the lower, which is 2A. So that's the stage one. There's a series of steps and ramps. So there is not vehicle access from A to B all the way through. Vehicles come off Stafford Street into the lower laneway, which is 2A, and that is constructed as a roadway, which will take vehicle loading, but it's also shared surface as the public space. The higher area, the 2B area, is up the ramps and the steps, and that will service the museum, but also act as an extension of the laneway to connect Stafford Street through to Barnard.
That's the cumulative cost anyway between those.
And the only other comment which I would make is the 3.1 for the northern extension. If the northern extension was not to go ahead, it's not a 3.1 saving because you've still got to reconfigure the toilets inside the existing the building. I think within my paper I've given costings for that. There would be something like a 1.8 saving. If it just to take back to the existing building envelope, you still have a chunk of that reconfiguration to do within that footprint, which falls under 3.1.
So to Councillor, what's your name? Scott's here, exactly. To Councillor Scott's point, and it might be just trying to simplify things. So what you're saying is that we get 24 million to that point whereby you're ready to go, and that the contingency is only after that. Are you able to give us some sort of resolution around that?
So again, for clarity, the 24 includes the cost of the lower laneway, because you'll need the lower laneway in order to open the theatre. So the 23.4 for the theatre includes 1.8 million for the truck access and the 2A lower laneway. The contingency, every project needs a contingency because things will happen. If you refer to the programme, which is in my attachment 2, and it harks back to what the Chief Exec was saying, we are programming to start the demolition. As soon as we walk out this room, if we get the tick, we'll be inviting demolition contractors, and that's to achieve programme. We will then be getting into the design for the laneway and the building of the laneway, because contingency is needed when there's unknowns, and unknowns tend to be below ground or behind walls and things in the theatre. So the quicker we get into the below ground works and the civil works and the prep works, the more we can de-risk the project and take all of those risks of unknown services and unknown cables and gas pipes and voids and all those things that we know, we suspect will be down there. You de-risk it as you go on, and as you de-risk it, you reduce your need for contingency. So, but I would be nervous about entering the project with no contingency. It's not unusual for a council to hold a chunk of the contingency as a reserve, which is above a certain figure. You come back to council, but to delegate a percentage of that contingency into the project team, So your 23.4 plus whatever your 2.5 million contingency is project contingency, and the other 2.5 sits as reserve. I mean, that's not unusual, and that could be a hybrid that works for people.
Very obvious that MB's challenge to us is based on the fact that the original design was inclusive of both, and we changed it, and in reality, I suppose, and in the fullness of time, we actually believe that we probably got the best result, but their comfort needs to be from the point of view that it's going to happen, they're going to be contiguous, and that's going to be pulled together, and that's why we have got some tension around the finalised date. Obvious, that would be the case.
That is the case. It was the Heritage Hub, so it was a contiguous building, as you say. It was one building. So now it's two buildings performing the same or similar functions, but when the MB funding was secured, it was for a theatre / heritage hub / art space / museum. So that, and that's what they funded. So that's their level of nervousness.
I'm just a little bit confused, and I don't want to try and oversimplify it, but my understanding was that in this chamber, we voted for a budget of $29.2 million, option 1B. So as far as the community is concerned, that is the budget for the theatre, $29.2 million, with a delegation up to $24 million for a CE. So then I would look at it, and again, it could be from a very oversimplified perspective, but if we came in at 26 million, or 26.5 million, or whatever it might be, then we've done well. We've come in under the budget of 29.2 million. I don't understand what the problem is. Sorry, maybe I've oversimplified it.
1B was actually the theatre and the museum as well. Option 1 was the theatre. Yeah. 1B, which was the clarification I'm seeking, is that 1B, which was resolved as the option selected, was for the theatre and the museum, which was the concept presented by the architects.
We'll go a question from Councillor Shannon, and then I'll call for someone to move some resolutions. Thanks. Councillor Shannon.
Thank you, Mayor Bowen. I'm with you, OJ, actually. And when we decided to go ahead with this particular option, we were excited about how good it was compared to the previous, but at a much lesser price. And that's why we came up with that resolution, and we set our Chief Executive a challenge, get it under 24. That was the difference. That was your challenge. If you can get it under 24, this is the budget. But somehow we have become fixated there on 24 now being the budget. And 24 was not the budget, that was the delegation. And I love looking at these figures here. They should land on 23.2, but it scares the shit out of you that there's no contingency.
Yep.
And likewise, it does our Chief Executive. And I don't want things to be tripped up at this hurdle because we're not allowing him to have that delegation that includes the contingency, where previously we were really nervous that the contingency in the previous plan wasn't enough. We were really nervous about that. And now, looking at a 20% contingency on 23.2 is well below that 29. So where I sit with this is it's so public now that we want you to land it on 24, and being part of that steering group, and the public out there don't realise what we do on this steering group, and we analyse things to death, and we grill you like we are here now every month, and then we're talking to each other, we're emailing backwards and forwards. Contrary to what the Herald might think, we don't just make the decision and just talk to each other in here and wait till we read it in the newspaper. That's not how it works. Thousands of pages and questions and discussions gone into this, and that's why I would actually be happy to move the recommendation in here of option 1.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that as a moving of option 1. I'll just hold any further on that, and I'll go to Councillor Pye.
Thank you. My question is, how do we record, either through resolution or intent, the conversations in this room? Because I think that is where the concern is. And we set the budget, it gets recorded in the resolution, And then all of a sudden, you know, the design comes in at 24, that's great, we've got another 5 million to spend, so we'll put this in, put this in, put this in, and put this in, so we spend the whole budget. And I think that is where the concern is and why we wanted to delegate a lower amount to the CE. So, yes, I agree, I supported a budget of 29.2, and I do not want to change my mind on that, but we still want that clear message somehow record them, and that's my question, how do we record that? Because even though Councillor Scott has said it's been in the public, it gets forgotten about 6 months' time we get this was the resolution, and nowhere in that resolution does it reflect our expectation that it's delivered for less.
I think through you,
Yes.
Worship.
Yep, go for it.
We've heard you loud and clear, okay? Loud and clear that your desire is to bring this in as under 24. So, but I think the steering group and myself need that confirmation that that budget is there just in case. Now, the short way through this is if we get on with the earthworks, we will know then if we're in trouble or not, before we even start the building works. So that'll be our first port of call to go, are these numbers here? Are we meeting them? And then that will start the ball rolling in terms of, okay, if these numbers were missed, where can we make that up? So I'm hearing you loud and clear, but I still think we've got to make sure that the 24 doesn't become the budget. And look, for my own sake, and the sake of our ratepayers, I want this as low as possible because I don't have to find the interest payments and the depreciation costs every blooming month and every year. I want this done to the best and at the best value possible. That is part of the reason why we decided to try and bring the thing as local as possible, because we anticipated that if we had it local, we'd get better prices because the community would pull together and actually do it at the best rate we could possibly get.
Mr. Trainer, I would feel very comfortable with the resolution being similar. So $24 million is delegated, noting that we still have that 29.2. I'm just trying to say that, yes, we're acknowledging, as you say, I understand about changing the 29.2. I want to keep the tight rein on this at this stage. And so what I'm asking for is the resolution to continue to give you delegated authority up to $24 million. And that's what I'm asking for within that. And which pretty much is what everyone's saying, but we just got to keep that handbrake on. Because this is where it goes wrong.
Yeah, so, sorry, I think everyone's probably on the same page as far as wanting to get the best value for ratepayer, ultimately. So is there, and we've talked about this across many decisions that we make around intent, so is there something else that we can add to the resolution that gives or supports around the intent of managing this project to the best cost possible, and we can do that through both the steering groups and regular reporting back to council, as we do with these major projects anyway. Mr. Trainer, sorry.
Look, I think people are better wording these things than me, but I think you, in that second resolution, you're referring the delegation, you're confirming the delegation to me of 24, and you possibly could confirm that the use of contingency is delegated to the steering group. All right, okay, well, it's worth a go. It was worth a go.
That is not a good idea. So what I'm saying is the $29.2 million is still in budget, and I'm acknowledging that. What I'm saying is the resolution needs to continue what it said before, that $24 million has got, the CEO has delegation to that, noting that it comprises of 29.2 million for the theatre. You've got to keep coming back, and these guys, yes, they have got a strong message today, but I feel the council table needs to keep control on this, because it got out of control last time. Before we knew it, it was gone.
So the previous resolution delegating 24 to me still stands. We're not asking to change that. So it still stands. The actual purpose of this paper is reconfirming the budget of 29.2, which is in line with the previous one, and also confirming the budget of 15 for the museum, so we can get on with the whole lot.
I would feel comfortable if it's written in there, because we get lost in it every
Alrighty.
time.
What we're going to come back to. Okay, so Councillor Shannon was the mover of the resolution as is. I'm asking you, Councillor Shannon, would you like to make some amend the resolution such that it confirms some intent? What is your thinking on that? And then
Well, if you
open it to the floor for a second.
Yeah, if you could smith the words a little bit to show that intent. But one of the things that we actually did, which is different to the previous plans for the theatre, is we created these groups that have got governance on it, which includes you and I, Stacey. You know, so that we didn't have to keep coming back here to make every bloody decision, to be honest. And well, it's not just a step. Well, remember, we only organised the workshop last week to bring everybody up to speed, and then there was this thing in the Timaru Herald, and then the chamber's been full 3 times in the last 2 weeks, whereas we created a governance group so that we could move ahead. So I don't know if we need to smith it up too much, because it is, like you say, it's been heard loud and clear.
Righto. So so we move this forward. Are you comfortable with the resolution as
I am.
stand?
Yep.
So I'll let Councillor Puddington speak, and then I'll ask.
Yeah,
you a
look,
second.
I'm going to vote against it because we're talking 24. The budget they presented is every cent we've got at more than 25 million. So
The budget's 29 million.
well, back with everything in it. It's the full amount. That's what they came to, wasn't it? Yeah, I know there's a contingency, but we're already at our full budget. And just quickly, a group that you're on, Scotty, isn't a decision-making group. It speeds the process up.
Yeah, Councillor Pye.
Just noting what Mr Traynor said, do we just put a third recommendation that either notes the previous resolution giving the delegation, or we need to rescind that?
Yeah,
so I think we should just note, in this one, note the previous delegation still stands. So if we haven't rescinded it, it still stands, doesn't it?
Unless there's a recommendation, a resolution that overrides that, which is today, effectively. I think we've got to be careful with these projects, because we're soon to be going and talking about the stadium, which is actually technically over budget. It's worse than this project. It is technically over budget. So all I'd hope is that, and we've added some funding that we've found when the stadium project stopped, and we've said that's extra money. Well, actually it's not. We agreed at the long-term plan 24 mil, and so now we've got a project over budget, which is the stadium. This one technically isn't over budget relative to the long-term plan. So the approach I'm asking should be consistent across the two. We do have a resolution. I will ask for a seconder as is. Councillor Jackson. So I will, did either of you want to speak to that resolution? There's been a lot of speaking done already.
I'd just like to say that I'm voting against the resolution, bound on my past decisions made about building a new theatre, and that I think that would be better bang for the buck over the next 50 years. So I'm just voting that down because I've made a decision and it didn't include this. So that's what I'm basing that on. Plus, at the moment, when we're looking at signing off $71 million worth of future capex, and I've got people ringing me every day about the Shingle Road they can't drive. Put it into context for those people.
Yeah, I agree. I think we've got to be clear around capex and opex, though, Councillor Oliver, and how that affects budget. So we do have a mover and a seconder. Would anyone like to speak against or for?
I just think and just to expedite this and to get more people around the table on board, I don't think it's a big issue to bring. We know it's there. In fact, that the 24 million's there. All we're saying is just put it in there so that it's there, it's known, it's inclusive. 24 for the CE, and then it can come back here. We know that the final budget is still 29.2. I think we will have some more people around this table vote for it.
Be clear, it's the 29 plus the museum. It's the whole deal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Councillor Booth.
Yeah, I mean, from the Chief Executive's point of view, he needs to have a contingency in there. And you'd be mad not to. So, yeah.
Thanks. Hold on. What we'll do, hold on. What we're going to do, we're just going to get some order team. We're going to put the motion as is. You can vote it up or you can vote it down. So I'm going to put the motion now. We'll raise our hands for this as is on the recommendation 9.1. Those in favour, raise your hand. So we'll record that. Councillor Booth, Councillor Parker, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Burt, Councillor Shannon, Councillor Ply. Those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Scott, Councillor Oliver, Councillor Piddington. I'll offer the three. I think we picked up, Councillor Oliver, your comment in regard to build new. If you just in regard to the minutes, if we can just record if you'd like a comment. And Councillor Scott, would you like a comment for the minutes?
The comment is I don't feel comfortable, and the $24 million, I would have liked that in the resolution, and that is why I'm voting no.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. And Councillor Piddington? Yeah, same, echoing Councillor Scott. So the motion is carried. Right on my... right on my allocated time of 20 to 30 minutes. On that note, we're about to move into local water done well. I know you're all here for local water, so stick around, it gets more exciting. Yeah, I know. But okay, team, so we do now move to the stadium. We just have to either have a break or put a resolution in at 4 o'clock. So we'll aim to spend 25-ish minutes on through to 4 o'clock. So I'll pass now to the team to take us into Aorangi Stadium project. Thank you.
Through you, Your Worship. Thank you. We're bringing this report in relation to the new Aorangi Stadium, or the Aorangi Stadium project, upgrade and expansion. We're basically bringing you up to speed in the report as we covered off in the workshop last week, and then hoping to get the go-ahead to launch into this project in a meaningful way. We are, as per the previous report, we are here to answer any questions and happy to do so if there are any.
Alrighty, Aorangi Stadium, let's kick off questions. Who wants to start, team? Yep, thanks, Stu.
Look, can I just quickly apologise to the sports? There seems to be a miscommunication for basketball, volleyball, that they were unaware that the 12-week period we need to close it, weren't informed of it, didn't realise the reason for it. Despite them having to go out and find other places, we do need to keep the project on the timetable because it makes sense to demolish the gym and the lounge, secure that building and move on in timing of whether Paul might want to back me up. But I acknowledge to those groups who will be listening, we didn't get our communication right, but I still have to support the timeline.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Piddington. And just to note this and to hear a conflict, I'm on South Island Masters Games, but 25 years next year, and they'll work around with the netball season. I think whatever model netball take, they'll probably work that model. But we just need to look ahead and if there's anything that we're missing, just contact some of those groups. Paul.
Yeah, I take full responsibility. That was my gaffe, it was my comment last week. It was premature, and I do apologise to those user groups. We are meeting with them tomorrow. What I should have said is that this is the timeline we now need to work to, and we will continue to work with the users to find alternative venues and ways to support their competition and their sport. So again, I unreservedly apologise for any miscommunication or clumsy wording here in this chamber last week.
Thank you, and I love your approach to owning that, Paul, so thank you. That's awesome, that's what we like to see. Now, questions. Let's get in to any detail that people want to pull out. This is a really cool project, and it's, again, very exciting for our community. I obviously sit on the reference group, so I'm a bit more over it, but is there anyone with questions that want to pull out some detail? Yep, Councillor Shannon, thank you.
Thank you. Just for a start, a bit of a clarification question, probably for those that have seen the paper or might be watching online and it's not really quite clear. How does the new traffic flow work with this plan, with that link between the netball courts and the old stadium go?
So the link road, which is currently in use between the existing stadium and where we're going to build the new, will be closed. Traffic which is accessing the facilities to the, get my orientation right, towards the west, which is the cricket oval, the athletics track, the bowling club. They will come in from the southernmost entrance. Separately, LTU and Parks are looking at making improvements to the car park entry and access on Mountain View Road. So we will separate the two sets of users, and people will soon learn where they need to go, but there will not be a racing track circulation around the campus as it is now, which, to be honest, is a safety issue, even as it stands. So what we're doing is improving that. From the southern entrance, that is currently one-way traffic. That would be reverted to two-way traffic with some footpath widening to make all of that work and safe. So as soon as we start the works, we'll be closing that link road and getting people into the education of using the correct entrance for their chosen
right, yeah, that's what people will be having a look at the plans. So if you're going up to the cricket or the athletics track, it's one way at the moment, so of course
it will be two-way.
It'll be two ways through there.
But we looked at making a circulation right around, and actually thought that was not a good idea, because it just reinforces the racetrack mentality of people coming in and drive around looking for car parks. So people will quickly learn which entrance to use, which car parks to use for their chosen activities.
Right. And I didn't get my calculator out for all of this, but what is the value of the cost of the items to be procured by TDC external to main contract? What is the value of all of that stuff within the project, which I'm assuming isn't underneath the full project itself?
Sorry, Councillor, is that the TDC Direct Works?
Yep.
About $320,000, which is the hockey room upgrade, which is underway now. So we've ring-fenced that. It's the roof repairs, which are not being done by Thompson's. We just go directly to a roofing contractor for that. And we're undertaking an element of civil works and utility diversions ahead of the main Thompson's contract, which is we close the link road, and then we've got to relay a couple of sewers and move some utilities ahead of Thompson's getting in there, so that they've got a clean site when they get in there. And again, that's down to mitigating the risk of unknowns when you start to dig holes and trenches. I'd rather that was us with our contractor than Thompson's when they're getting onto
So that's 320k, that's all?
320k, yeah.
Oh, that's good. And just a question regarding the public toilets that are sitting in the desirable column. Or is it just the external entry that has been determined as just desirable? I understood
probably more
that.
of an operational thing, that there will be toilets which are accessible from the lobby. I know that Mike Wrigley has had concerns about them being used and abused in the past, and I think the existing toilets were set on fire what time by some users. So they are there, and it's probably more of a control issue than anything else. And again, in the wider context, we're looking to work with Parks on what other public toilets are available for, I guess, non-sports campus users, who tend to be the ones.
So long as things are operation, those toilets will still always be accessible to the public?
Yes, my understanding they will be accessible, it's just that the means of access is under debate, whether that's through a swipe or a steward or whatever. I don't think the desire is to leave them wide open with no supervision, because then they will get abused. Thank you.
Yeah, the toilets are a big issue, Scotty, and access to them. So if hockey have got a tournament, yes, they will be open. But if you happen to go past there at 10 o'clock at night, yeah, and no one's there, you'll be out of luck. But so hockey will have access from the west and, the sports within, so, yeah.
I just want to draw everyone's attention, just so we don't have some challenges early on. If you go to page 116, which is the budget. So our previous resolution delegates the Chief Executive to a figure of 24.2, but this totals is above that, including the Legacy Aorangi Trust funding. But technically the delegation, if we're wanting to include this the total as is, should be up to that total figure of 24,767,337.
My understanding is that money was included in it, because so when the trust was shut down and that money was transferred, it just went into the total project cost. So I was quite surprised to see that.
Yeah, so technically...
Because we were on budget and that's thrown it out just in the last week. So the team has thrown the budget out. That 567,000 originally was in the 24.2 million. So, wasn't it, Mr. Trainer?
Sorry, included in the 24.2. Yeah, so my question is that if without that it brings your contingency down to 3.
Well, it does. I had a question around that anyway, because so the Thompson contract, the 24, sorry, let me start again. The approved budget, which I was questioning that it wasn't actually that high, so that was the first thing. But if you reduce that, take it out, you've got 1.5 million. And the $1,000 is for contingency, and the other $1,000, $1,073,073 additional cost to TDC. So that was your consenting, your professional fees, TD, direct costs, which is in that. So I am concerned about that. We have always had 24.2, and so somewhere in the last week, I feel like that's got muddled, because you're right, this is over, and so how are we going to fix that incorrection? Because, now we're going to approve an over budget.
Could I talk to that, Your Worship?
Yeah, of course.
So my understanding is that 567 was going to be used by Mike Wigley anyway to upgrade the lights and the heating. And all we've done is said, well, there's no point you doing that separate to us, because we've been doing steel work and the rest of it, so just wrap that into Thompson's contract. So my clear understanding or direction was that was outside and over and above the 24.2, and we're just using the opportunity to get some efficiencies by doing one contractor to do that work that would have been going on anyway.
We're told Mike Wigley had his own little budget hiding somewhere for all of that.
Yeah, that is Mike's budget.
What, the trust money?
The
trust money was Mike's, I don't think it was.
So that's the money, that's the budget I was informed is available for that.
I think Mike got a bit excited. Well, I am concerned by that, because it was 24.2. Money was, that gift from the trust was to be included in the 24.2, or originally to the fundraising, and we've all forgotten that. So I don't know how you address that. It's a pain that it's there, because now, as the Mayor said, we're over budget, and
we don't do the
that's
heating.
annoying.
So we don't do the heating to the existing stadium?
Originally, you had it in there last week.
Well, yeah, we had it in because... Yeah. Okay. Noted.
Yeah, so the question for everyone is, do we think the Legacy Aorangi Trust funding sits within the 24.2, which means you can't do the heating, or does it sit outside of that, and then it means you can do the heating? I think it's perspective, but the reality is it is 567,000 extra. Well, I know this, I just want, I think we need to have consistency in approach. Oh, no, I didn't say that. I'm asking a question. Councillor Pye.
I do have some other questions, but on that, if we want to be consistent with the approach, that would leave you with a contingency of 400 and whatever the mass is, 33,000. How does that affect the project?
It is a different beast. It's a design and build project. So if we go back maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks to the PSG, where I uncomfortably sat there and said, well, the ground conditions are not as good as we had hoped, and we need to address that. So that was $1.5 million of extra cost into the project, which we absorbed, and we found how to do that. So had I been sitting here 8 weeks ago with a big tag and exclusion on ground conditions, I would say nowhere $1 million or $500,000 is enough. We've de-risked that. We've now put that risk back onto the contractor through the design and build contract and the geotechnical investigations that we did. So that entire chunk of it now has been de-risked and put onto Thompson's. And so I'm comfortable with $1 million. I'll be honest, I'd even be comfortable with $500,000 there, because it's a design and build contract, and the majority of risk is now put onto the contractor. So barring any scope creep, and contingency is never there for scope changes, got to get that in, that's contingencies for unknowns, then the risk profile is significantly different on this, because it's a design and build project.
So I can't believe I'm about to say this, but anyway. This Aorangi Trust was set up to maintain the old stadium. And it's obvious they probably didn't do a flash job of that. But this is the legacy money that was left over. So effectively, it is going into the old stadium. It is going in to upgrade the heating and lighting, which that trust would have probably had to do anyway. So I'm just wondering whether, what else are we going to use that money for from that old trust? It should go into the stadium. So it's a case then of, do you allow it in or not?
Based on what Paul said, I would suggest we shouldn't be adding it to the budget. And if we're going to be consistent approach with the theatre and the stadium, the budget is the budget. And yes, that money goes to funding it, but it does not increase the budget. And then I had two other questions but did you want to ask something about that first?
Oh, look, the trust stopped spending money about 3 years ago, because apart from polishing the floors, because this was coming. So I get the point, we'd be splitting hairs, bits and pieces. I'm comfortable either way. But it was, had we known the existing stadium was staying, we would have done work, including the lights. So split it whatever way you like.
Why don't you move it, Stu? Move it, because you've been one of the guys that have been involved.
There's a couple of highlighted things in here, Paul, that I feel like, can you just explain to me? From 125, it says, like, roof repairs, note to be done by TDC external to main contract. I get that, that's away from Thompson's. And then, but one of them in there, sorry, let me find it, was something about the sports admin area. Just trying to find it.
That's where Sports South Canterbury
I know
were?
exactly where it is, Stu.
Okay.
I'm just trying to say... what I'm trying to say is the TDC, Paul, you put in there externally, external, that's away from the contract, but what are we doing there? And that's point one. And point two, what is happening with them as well? Because I got a call today from Sport Canterbury saying, do they have to move out for 12 weeks too? And I went, I actually don't know. So there's two parts to that.
I can answer that. Yep, some of it. We are going to try and help to accommodate people displaced from there for that 12-week shutdown over at Seabay, including the gym. So it will get a little bit busy over at Seabay for 3 months, but hopefully they buy their coffee there and not at Highfield.
There is absolutely no issues. I didn't feel there was from Sport Canterbury. They said that they would probably work from home for 12 weeks. They'd set up that. It's just they didn't know, once again.
Yeah,
No,
well,
it was just that comms.
Well, we're formulating a plan to accommodate everybody
Yeah.
that we can at Seabay.
Okay, perfect.
And so that's would come up
Yeah.
through the user group probably.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So then going back to the spend within there, because we sort of all agreed it is actually looking all right. So does that come out of that additional cost to TDC? Where is that actual money sitting?
So the sport admin area, we value engineered out of Thompson's work because they were going to give it a full repaint, new carpets and the rest of it. We said, doesn't need it. So we'll take it out of Thompson's work. As we get to the end, if we have anything left in the pot, we decide it does need a lick of paint and a bit of love, that we can do it then. But it wasn't an essential, and they certainly weren't jumping up and down saying we need new magnolia on the walls.
That's what I was going to say, Stacey.
Councillor Pye, thanks.
So I just have a couple of questions about how we're showing the budget and the funding. And so with the theatre, we showed grants coming in and potential fundraising avenues, and with the museum commitment to the 3 million. And so here we're not showing any of that. So my understanding is in our normal, in our annual budget, we've got $2 million coming in from what if I recall correctly is better off funding. So we're not showing that in here. And then there's been an undertaking to do some fundraising, I believe, and so we're not showing that in here either. And I just wondered why we've taken a different approach with the different projects, because yeah, I know it doesn't affect the budget, but it's nice for us to know where the funding's all coming from.
In the PSG reports, which I appreciate you don't all see, it is consistent. The PSG does address the better off funding, the potential users fundraising, and it does say in there, and it's a similar approach to the theatre, that we're not dependent on that money over and above this. Anything that we get as grants and funding and offsets will offset the borrowing. So we never want to be dependent on $2 million of fundraising to be able to complete the building. If that's the case, we don't have a project, and that is not the case.
And the $2 million of better off funding, is that locked and loaded?
Yes.
Yes, right, okay. So then I had another question on point 11 on page 117, and we talk about the business case is underway, and it includes potential annual rates contribution of 50 to 60,000 will be required, equates to $2.15 to $2.58. Can we just be 100% clear? What does that include and what doesn't include? Does it include depreciation, interest and loan repayments?
So it's based on the Morrison Law report that you guys had done before. So the Morrison Law report gave a number of scenarios. It didn't have the scenario that we have now because that wasn't an option. Retain 3 courts and build another 8. So it's an extension of exactly the same logic, but just to reflect the model that we've now got, which is 8 courts plus 3. I would also say in the Morrison Law report, it's anticipated a far higher capital expenditure than we've actually got. It was, I think it was estimating $40 million at one point, so that their rating figures, to be honest, are only going to go in one direction. So we need potentially another staff member because we've got the 11 courts and not the 8 that we're going to have. But that's offset by additional revenues, and it's offset also by the fact we've got a low capital cost. So that operational plan will be published next week.
Just for the record, I liken this to me going to the bank and asking for money for a farm without knowing how I'm running it. But we've been through this through council round and round and round, and I've moved on. But I'm still not clear, interest and depreciation included in the operating model or not? Because once again, we put figures out for the theatre once that it was going to cost $4.17, and it was not right. So I just want to be 100% clear, no interest and depreciation in those figures.
I'll make that very clear when I publish the report, yeah.
Alrighty, so do you want to move us towards recommendation? Just Councillor Puddington, in regard to that it's $24.2 million budget, what do you want to move in and around that, because it's not part of the resolution?
I'd like to move that the money that was in the stadium trust, that was for the stadium, be included above the budget shown here, however you want to word that. So whatever money was left over from the maintenance budget of the stadium that came back to council should be included above the contract, well, someone cleverer than I.
Above the delegated budget. Happy to second that. Right, any further discussion for and against? Councillor Pike?
I'm not going to support that based on what I said before.
No,
We
no.
can't have a different approach to the theatre and the stadium, and so to me, the budget is the budget.
Yeah, consistency of approach. That's all fine. Did anyone want to speak for or against? Otherwise, I'll put the motion. So it's as is with the budget, 567,000 over the 24.2 technically. So I'll put the motion now. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Yeah, against? Against?
No, my question was to Mr Traynor, because he was nodding when I said it, that it was in there last week and now it's not. Well,
You're the governors, you can move to change it if you want.
no, it sort of screwed us up today, is what I'm saying. Last week we had a budget, we were in budget, and now we're not, so it's quite disappointing that we're in a position now that we're comparing one project to the bloody other.
But last week it was in the numbers, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's exactly as was reported at the last PSG report.
Yeah. The last project.
You're not workshop. We do you know how many pieces of paper we get in this job? And so with the workshop, I'm 1 week. I'm a 1 week person, you know, and so I've got it here and it doesn't say that.
Alrighty. You want that recorded? Yes, yeah, Councillor Scott. You technically didn't vote for it. But would you like a comment just subject to the budget, or as far as for the minute you're comfortable? Okay, perfect. Thank you. The motion is carried. Okay, so we need to... Yeah. It's exciting. Alrighty, so we are going to adjourn for 7 minutes because we need to take a break at 2 hours or move a recommendation to continue. So take 7 minutes and then we'll get into the main 10. Oh, it needs to be 10, sorry. Alrighty, Joe, are we good to? Yep. Alrighty, welcome back everyone. We'll go now to item 9.3, local water done well. And this is around the selection of preferred option for consultation. So I'll pass over to Stephen, Andrew and Andrew. Take us through the paper.
So through the chair, I'm not taking offence that everyone's left the room with our exciting topic today. This is quite an important decision, but it's not the decision you have to make. It's just at the moment selecting what your preferred option to take out to the public is. We're using the special alternative requirements for consultation set out in the Water Services Act, which specifies the sort of format we have to do it, but also lightens the load slightly with that one. The recommended option that we're taking out is to set up a joint council-controlled water services organisation with Mackenzie and Waimate if possible. For note, Waimate's preferred option they're going out to the public with is for an in-house model, and Mackenzie have voted this morning to take a joint CCO with us out as their preferred option. We'll all be consulting separately but together, that we have the same base document that we're all working off, but we will localise it with introductions from our own mayor and our own figures as need be. And most of the information is coming from the workshop that was presented to you last week, so you should be reasonably over the topic. But I have these two experts here to ask any questions that aren't about consultation.
I'll just add that, yeah, Waitaki still have 1 foot in the camp, and they are going out to consultation with, I think, 4 options, of which a combined CCO with Waimate, Mackenzie and us is one of those, but their preferred option is joining with Southern Water, which is the Goa, Clutha, and Central Otago one.
Yeah, and I think they're still open, as some other councils are, to what could end up being into the future, I guess. But it feels like 6 years of my life, roughly, talking about water. Didn't think I'd just be talking about water and local government, but it does feel like that way. So it's nice to get to this point. It's a shame, just with the consistency of data, us all having the same information, that we're not all recommending the same option as far as the South Canterbury councils, but understand that they're their own democracy, and they will take their recommendations from their CE and staff as we will, but I think it all needs to be robustly tested because, anyway, that's right. I think the key thing for this that I see, though, is, this is about water, yes, but government is talking about other things. We're talking about, regional deals. How can we get a good deal for Canterbury, South Canterbury, when we can't be seen to work together on water. So I think those are the things that are at risk if we can't do this. And, as I'll just get my comments out of the way, I'm the view that, if this data from Martin Jenkins said, hey, it was going to be dearer, I don't think that would be the recommendation of this council, but there's a lot of good things that come out of working together. Cost effectiveness over time for the ratepayers, governance, there's so many positives. And I think, as I said a few weeks ago in a paper article, that we should be open-minded to looking and working together, because there's so many things that we can save money on. And when, the smaller councils such as Waimate's, Mackenzie's and Kaikoura are saying that, hey, a large percentage of their rates just cover senior leadership and the chief executive, surely we should all be looking, especially some of those smaller councils, looking to do things more efficiently. But I'll throw it open to the floor for any questions of the officers.
Just the wording is going to be actually really important in my view, and how we present it. I just note that the Chief Executive of Mackenzie just sent an email through and was applauding the DIA's community communications material. And I think we need to be quite short, simple, but specific about what the impact is and what the reasons why we're going, perhaps down the line that we're going, in order to get a, something that looks like a semi-sensible response from our ratepayer in regards to their feedback. So yeah, that's just what I've, the pros and cons, but keeping it simple and utilising the information that's out there to make sure that they're aware the implications of not saving money and getting the 500%.
It will probably take a similar approach to what we do with the long-term plan here, is that we'll have a top-level document that will go out to everyone via the courier, and then we'll have information like the Martin Jenkins reports on the website that people can deep dive if they want to. But we'll also be offering opportunities for you guys to get out and talk to people about it and see what their concerns are as well, because I think from other councils I've found that the concerns that people are raising out there aren't actually linked to the water reform itself. So if you can disabuse them of those things, you might actually help the conversation as well.
Yeah, I think one of the pushback issues would be for people is the fact they think they're losing ownership or they're giving up ownership. Well, what is ownership of a pipe in the ground? It's actually, it just belongs to everyone. It's not, it's sure it's been paid for by, but you're not going to dig it up and sell it to someone. So, I think there's got to be something subtly put in around that says, look, it's the assets are in the ground. They're not material things that you can, that you're going to give away. It's just not happening.
That point is made in the document that the ownership of the assets still remains with the community, and the community still uses those assets. So yeah, you cannot sell them. That is a key point as well. They cannot be privatised.
Councillor Piddington.
Sorry, might have been distracted, but point 3, we're not going as a preferred option with Waimate if they're not going in with us, are we? That'll just confuse the public.
No, I think it still needs to be there because Waimate still could change their mind. So effectively they're consulting on the same options, just that their preference is slightly different to ours. So if the Waimate community come back and say, no, we want to be part of the joint, I think our community need to know that as well.
I get that, but we also need... I'm trying to have some clarity because they've clearly said no. That's been in the paper and all round. So
at the moment, the thing going out is a shared water services organisation. That might just be with Mackenzie, that there are still, the benefits aren't as good. They're kind of probably in the middle somewhere, that Andrew can probably speak to more than me.
I guess.
I think the wording we'll probably use is WSCCO with neighbouring councils, rather than being too explicit about it. It might be a little on the nose to name them.
Yeah, I mean, we might be giving them a bloody nose, but we almost might be confusing people by saying
it is one of the
areas their option isn't.
It is one of the areas where going out with a joint consultation would have made a bit more sense, because we would have all been going out together saying these things, even if we'd had different approaches to it, but it wasn't to be.
Waimate is still consulting on a combined option, a combined CCO, so it's still one of their options, it's just not their preferred option.
I think the challenge, though, is, we're going to be in the community talking up our preferred option, whereas if they're doing the same with their community groups and stuff, they're talking up their preferred options, and we've got quite different narratives, and that's like, well, how do we get that quite different narratives from the same base information? I struggle, personally. But I think there's an opportunity if we really dig into this, we do the public meetings, we do all that stuff, because there's going to be a lot of interest in this, as there has been previously in the water reform. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to get that story across, and I think there's some others across other districts that will pick up on that benefit. I mean, remembering again, I apologise because you've heard me harp on so many times, but this is our model that we presented through C4LD over consecutive councils. It is councils working together across boundaries in joint water council-controlled organisations. All 3 of our councils really, rode the waves of that. So for us to then step away, I find
one thing to note is that at the end of the day, every council has to put together a sustainable water services plan that if the DIA turns down that plan, there does need to be a backstop for that council. So having a cohesive plan that's probably embracing people joining it is probably one of the stronger positions to be in that regard.
I think you've got round it by saying neighbouring councils.
I mean, our data from Martin Jenkins is going to speak to the comparisons that we've done, so that's going to be the base document, isn't it? Yeah. Councillor Pye, sorry, and then Councillor Booth.
I actually agree with Stu, because at this point in time, my preference would be having Waitaki in there as well for a number of reasons. It delivers better economies of scale over time. Well, the modelling shows that. And if one of the other councils, e.g. Waimate, pull out, we've still got enough scale to deliver those economies. And so, yeah, I would agree with rewording the resolution so it's a joint. I'm not sure about the use of the word neighbouring, because technically Waitaki don't neighbour us, depending on the definition of it. But so that it's either it's a joint CCO with other local councils or something.
I've been refining I've been refining the wording a wee bit in my head over today, and I was just going to actually come out with South Canterbury councils, because that does cover the 4.
They're in summer South Canterbury, aren't
The top bit is.
Yeah. I do have some quite a lot of feedback on the consultation document, but how do you want that now, or?
Please email it through to me.
It's really hard to email my notes I make on the hub.
Stephen.
Yeah, maybe I could just.
You'd sit down with me tomorrow,
Yeah, okay.
or whatever. That's fine.
Okay, I'll work on that, because I don't think it's clear enough about the non-harmonisation. Those figures that we're quoting in there are non-harmonised, and we don't make that clear, and we don't say when. And I don't like the use. I'm with Councillor Booth on something he said before, and I can't think what it was, but I don't. We talk about it's going to be cheaper or dearer, but compared to what? Water is not getting cheaper, so we can't. I don't like the use of that word, but I'll send it all through to you.
Yep, no, that's fine. We're running at pace at it, so I'm getting it designed as we do it, but this is the time for you to have your input to it.
I'll endeavour to send it through tonight, but I tell you, what I did agree on is this: we need to be very, very clear about the difference between ownership and control. Because they're very different, and we talk about in here taking a step back from control, which people often confuse with ownership. So we need to be very clear that ownership is different to control, and ownership is still maintained within the community. It's just a wider community.
Sorry, Councillor Booth, did you have another question? No, that's okay. It's been a long day. Councillor Scott.
I have quite a lot of questions around the consult document too, so maybe we'll just organise some time to sit down, because I am concerned about the language too, even the words probably, like, what is it, and I talked to Mr. Traynor actually in the tea room, whatever we call that, and I actually really struggled with the difference between in-house and our water, the other one and 2. Because to me, if I was sitting there as a ratepayer, I'd go, why would we want to have a board, and why would we have all these things, and so let's just keep it in-house, because we just need it to tell a story. And I think we can all help you shape that, because we're the ones that are going to have to talk to it.
And within that story, I think it's important to say the government, DIA, do not support standalone councils, because that's the message they've given us, and we've got to reinforce that message, because otherwise someone will say, oh, why Maddie are doing it on their own, why aren't you guys doing it on your own? So actually, that's not the preferred option.
So the quirk we've got is on the analysis here, and on the analysis done with the southern one, we were the best of the 7 councils. So effectively, somehow we have to get the message across that we are the best, we've got the best prices, but somehow we have to maintain that. And, it amuses me that Waimati's used harmonisation as a negative when actually, when you look at these three that we're looking at, they're the worst of the three. So a harmonised one would give them price savings, and yet they've turned that around, and you go, what's that about? So for us, my thinking is it's about, as Councillor Booth said, about the assets are still public. The ratepayers own the entity, therefore they still own the assets. But secondly, giving confidence that we're going to continue to maintain them. And I think that that's probably where we can have some conversations about coming together gives you the higher level capability to maintain them, particularly when they start really ageing, when they get to that real plateau. And it's the same for the other two or three. You know, if you look at the debt to revenue ratios, some of them, they're not going to survive by themselves. So effectively, they will end up joining someone.
There's some good information in the key findings here, like page 194, that gives some bulk numbers, but it sort of emphasises the fact that you dilute the overheads, the more people who got involved. And so, yeah, it's just got to be simple and to the point and demonstrating that it's best value for the ratepayer moving forward.
Yeah, look, I mean, the arguments are easy. It would be no different in the conversation if you were to bring the three councils together and amalgamate. Obviously, that's not a conversation that we're having, but that's what we're doing. We're amalgamating water to get efficiencies, which is great for all of them. Look, I'm happy to move those recommendations as is. Obviously, there's some delegations sitting in there just to Infrastructure Committee Chair, being Sally and myself for final sign-offs. There's some elected members that will send some stuff through for consultation. I think a key one for me for this is that we're all in and really support this consultation and get out there with the events that we put out there, because I know it's not the most exciting thing for some members of the community, but I think there will be a lot of interest. And there's an opportunity to engage with our ratepayers, you know, if we have some town hall meetings, public meetings, whatever we end up doing. Any further, second it. Thank you, Councillor Booth. Further discussion from the floor, any questions, comments?
Sorry, just so I'm clear, so that's to approve as is with Mackenzie and Waimati?
Yes,
as the preferred option?
Yeah.
No change to the wording to...
Agrees to the joint with Mackenzie District Council as a preferred option.
To the other local district councils. I probably wouldn't support it as is, but I'd support it if we were putting a joint option as a preferred option as a joint CCO with other local councils.
Yeah, look,
any of Mackenzie, Waimati, Waitaki.
Yeah.
If we show that, like that page 194, it shows what the benefits are if they all chose to come in. So that's actually going to be good for people in Waimati potentially to see that.
Yeah. Still be showing that, won't we?
Yeah, so you're saying remove the names and just put local councils.
I think you could probably solve that in the preamble and just talk in general terms, but if you show specific examples of what it could look like with specific councils inside, it might be.
But based on this resolution, we would be saying in that document our preferred option is just Mackenzie and Waimati. Whereas, and this is just my opinion, my preferred option is any of the three other, Waitaki.
Why don't you just take out, just have agrees to take a joint council-controlled water service organisation as a preferred option for public consultation?
Happy with that, but that's not what Mayor Bowen
No, that's fine. I think if you just take that out to your point, Stephen, then that sort of covers it. If it's a joint water service organisation, I'm comfortable with that change. Councillor Booth as a seconder, you're comfortable with that change? No, I don't think it will, because it's in. No, because we'll talk to that in the consultation document, so it's two separate things. Yeah. Cool. Everyone comfortable with that? Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Cool, thanks team, appreciate all the work that's gone behind that. We will pick up some steam. 9.4 on page 228, which is affixing the common seal. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Parker, Councillor Booth. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Move now to page 233, release of public excluded items. So there's directors and trustees appointment committee meeting last November, council workshop, which was LTP presentation draft budget, and S&P of Meadows Road. I thought we'd actually put that out there already, but that's all right. Oh, not the whole doc. Oh, yeah, perfect. So 1, 2, 3, I'm happy to move it from the chair. Councillor Burt, seconder. Discussion? No. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Actions register updates. First one, where are we? Budget reallocation trial. Complete. We go back
I'm
to
not
this
convinced
one.
about this because that would only cover off things that come to council. It doesn't cover off all of the budget reallocations that are within delegations that we just don't know about. I wasn't convinced this is a solution.
No, I think we might just leave it on, and I'll have a chat maybe with the chief executive around that. It's just for us to have oversight, eh? Okay, cool. Subcontracting across council. This is recommended that it's been closed, but we're still waiting for some feedback. I think we'd ask for further update on the likes of street sweeping relative to current contracts, etc. 27, 28 ending. Were we able to get out of them? What was the process around that? Andrew, do we go back to look further into the street sweeping? Because we did come to the realisation that would save some money, but what was the verdict in regard to the contractor?
Yeah, well, the street, we're talking about street sweeping.
Yeah, that was one, yeah.
Yeah, so we basically considered that there's an opportunity coming up once the contract expires and there is a potential second extension. That council can exit out of street sweeping at that point. But if we exit out it beforehand, there will be some penalties. Yeah, we didn't quantify those penalties, but
okay.
We felt that, yeah, given that we're actually not that far away, let's let it lie.
Okay, can you we'll leave that on, and can you just update that next time with what those penalties might look like and the date?
Yeah,
and then I'll consider closing it off at that point. Small trades, I think that's still a work in progress. Yeah. Glasses. It's been closed off. The underutilised asset template for financial impact is gone. Vertical infrastructure maintenance report, I think we'd asked to keep that in there, hadn't we? Yeah, so that's fine.
That one isn't quite, the commentary is not quite what we're after. What we were concerned about is all our vertical assets that don't have maintenance programs. I mean, if you take the building just across the road there, the window sills haven't been painted for 30 years, you know. So it was trying to get an idea of what all our buildings, a bit of an idea of what we should be putting in annually to take care of them.
Yeah. I think we'll just keep that in as an action. Yeah. Maybe SLT can...
Yeah, once we've completed our restructure, that'll be a job for the new property manager.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then report on parking. Yes. Yep. NZTA, we've got a date, I think. Yes, we do. Yeah. Then financial system, that's work in progress. So you've been to Palmy North. That's happened already, is it? Or yeah, it has. How did that go? Do you want to make up the comments? Thanks, Andrew.
So basically the first bit of the meeting with Palmy, as they call themselves, was they showed us authority altitude, which is not too dissimilar to the current altitude or authority that we use. However, they use Magic for all of their reporting. They use Magic for their budgeting. So essentially, they just use authority as their processing tool. So they just process their payables through there, their receivables through there, but all their budgets are held within Magic, and they do their annual plan, long-term plan through Magic as well. So they then have dashboards tied to that Magic through Power BI. So we were quite interested into how they found that. The managers, they started to do their forecasting on a 6-monthly basis, then they went down to quarterly, and then they found that the managers actually interacted with Magic, and the managers were actually asking to do forecasting monthly because it was so easy. So we may have that with some managers here. So the next step is to, one, look to go to altitude from a authority perspective, because that is where authority is going, and then look to use it like similarly to them, that they use it as a processing tool, and that we actually look at the reporting through Magic. So Magic is what we're currently using for our long-term plan and our annual plan process and our forecasting process. So it's just to then build that up so that the reports are in there from a monthly perspective as well. Magic.
Michelle and then Stu.
Sorry. How do you transfer the information from one system to another?
Guy here?
Okay, so
so it can be done, yes. So Magic, so Palmy have an integration like a API where it will talk to a database. Database gets updated twice a day currently from their perspective at the moment, and then the Magic is then refreshed.
So it's Magic.
It's Magic, yeah.
I just wondered if you've talked to Selwyn District Council, because it appears they thought it was anything but Magic, and they're talking about turning around the Titanic, and they've got 24,000 codes, and it's just, so what I'm saying is I don't blame the situation we're in, these others in the same situation, but it sounds like there's some good lessons to learn from there. It said problems with Magic were highlighted during the 23-24 long-term plan audit, and they'd introduced a new model, and it sounds to me like you could learn a lot from Selwyn.
I think no matter what system you have, it will have its weaknesses and its strengths, and it gets down to how you utilise it. And if Selwyn's anything like us, it's probably a reflection on how outdated their chart of account is. Our chart of accounts is outdated, which is hamstringing how we can report on things. And also, ESCA is the other one that I'm not happy with, and that one needs to be changing, because that actually gives you, if you've got the right procure to pay system, you know exactly where you're at. Whereas if you've got a procure to pay system where you can't extract out your commitments or things like that, you're on the back foot. So I think a number of what I'm hearing, Palmerston North, they're using 3. They're using altitude just as their chart of accounts and their AP and AR. They're using Magic to do their planning and budgeting and reporting against budget, and then they're using Power BI to do more sophisticated dashboards.
And I agree. I just think it sounds like Selwyn's been through the same thing we've just been through, and a conversation with them could be valuable.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Do you know if they use Magic for processing as well, or just reporting?
Just Google the news article, because that's all I know, which may not even be true.
Okay, perfect. That's good to see we're making some headway though. Next one was workshop on waste. Investigate financial system. Obviously that's going to stay there, that's just in progress. Workshop on waste, we had that today. We had some further questions, but I think we can be comfortable that we remove this. Questions offline that we can work with the waste team. Yeah, everyone comfortable with that? Yeah, it was informative. So that brings us to, yes.
On that waste thing, there were some actions out of that workshop though, weren't there?
Yep,
and we don't want to lose sight of them.
Okay, do you want to...
I just can't remember what they were, but there were definitely some actions out of that workshop, so it'd be good to include them on that, and when they're completed, then take it off.
Yeah. Okay, in that regard, Jess can have a chat to Grant, we'll feed that into here and keep it live until they're done. Perfect. Okay, so can I have a mover and seconder for the action register? Thank you, Councillor Shannon. Councillor Burt nodded first. Thank you. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 9.7, Bruff Scully, proposed revocation of a local purpose reserve road status. Andrew, Mr Dixon, welcome. It's good to see this moving ahead. Mr Dixon.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is a procedural matter. In a nutshell, when Tasman Street was built many years ago, and I'm not sure when, there was provision for that road to be extended into what's known as Bruff Scully. When they allocated that land, they didn't designate it as vested as road reserve. They vested it as a local purpose reserve for road purposes. So there's a slight technicality here. So unfortunately it sits under the Reserves Act as it is not a road under the Local Government Act. We have, of course, looked at the whole Bruff Scully, done an outline development plan, looked at the most efficient way of actually developing that land, and as a consequence of that, there is a slight realignment of the proposed road in that network. So in relation to that, we have to basically do some land swaps. But before we can do that, we have to remove the reserves status of what that land is there. So this is about simply getting council to agree to remove that status. It still has to be approved by the Minister of Lands. There is a process there, but we need that just to kick this process off. So following that, we will come back to council and for the approval of the actual land swap. Happy to take any questions.
Councillor Puddington.
No problem with it all, but I'm just interested in the process. Is that a heavy legal process, or do we just write a letter to the Minister of Lands?
I understand it's write the letter.
Okay, no, I'm just interested.
Need the council resolution.
Yeah, okay. So I'm happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Puddington. Someone to second? Yep, thank you, Councillor Booth. Any further questions or discussion? No, I'll put the motion now. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you, everyone. 9.8 is acquisition.
I only have one question. Do we need the reserve? Are we keeping there?
The question is, do we need the reserve?
This piece.
Yeah, the we.
I mean, we've got a mower.
Yeah, good question. Okay, that was carried. We'll go to 9.8, which was acquisition of land for future extension of wastewater treatment, 294.
Yep. So this is basically looking at a land swap again. It's a little bit different. In fact, you don't have to remove any reserve status. The land itself is freehold land in both cases. So council purchased the land, which is on the map there shown as in purple or blue, whichever colour. That was acquired during the treatment plant upgrade. We bought up a number of blocks of land around there in order to construct the new oxidation ponds, but also allow for some buffer area. Unfortunately, we didn't get to secure the piece of land that at the time, which is shown in yellow on your map there. And because that was all linked up as one big property. We have approached the owners of that property and they are looking at the development now, and therefore they are open to doing a land swap. So the areas of land concerned are very similar, and there's a valuation which is attached to the report which indicates that basically it should be cost neutral, that the valuation of both pieces of land is more or less equal. So we're asking for council to approve the transfer of this land and go through the process.
Councillor Pike.
So I'm supportive of this, but is it going to give us enough expansion? Because are you going to expand a pond and make it bigger? Obviously, there's not enough room there to make another pond.
We also have land on the other side. The main area for here is the odour buffer zone around, so it comes into where our odour management is. There is an option where we can build a second pond also in that area to go through. It's not super large, but it does give us that option when you combine it with the other land that we own on the other side of the road.
I guess mine was similar. If we needed it, are we better to buy it and keep it, or is that not an option? I mean, I don't know, but in 10 years' time, you don't want to read that we swapped it and now we need it.
It's more about covering off the area that's covered by a designation and going through. So that land on that side, we don't need this stage. If we end up with retreat going way back there, then we're, to be honest, looking somewhere else. Yep.
Yeah, Councillor Pye.
So under the financial and funding implications, you say that all costs can be funded within current council budget. So did that mean we knew this was coming and we specifically budgeted for this, or have you swiped another budget, and if so, what are we missing out on?
No, so this project's been the, should we say, want to do the land swaps, been here before my time, so it's been sitting there. It's within our capital program to go through. There's no purchase as such of land. This is around $20,000 of subdivision fees to go through.
I just wanted to make sure that we didn't hear later that something didn't get done because council approved this.
No, there is sufficient funding there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Just for my interest, because other people have raised this in the past, with the road reserve thing, why do we always look, and it was brought up this morning with the Barton Road, Claremont Road thing, why do we, when we're doing a subdivision, swipe a bit more?
We're basically restricted through the district plan on how much we can, a corner splay we can take, yeah.
Why do we want a bigger corner splay just for road safety? What?
Sorry, was
we need a bigger corner splay? Is it just around road safety and visibility?
It's basically gives the visibility, makes the intersection safer, and gives us some flexibility if we do have to alter the intersection. And that's what this one's about.
So Councillor Pye, happy to move that? Yeah, Councillor Piddington, perfect. Any further discussion? No, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 9.9. Kathmandu Car Park, 334. Andrew.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is really in response to a council action, wanting to understand more about how the Kathmandu car park actually works. This explaining here that basically during the development of that building, which again was a long time ago, part of the resource consent, and I think it's a caveat on the property, that there has to be parking on the rooftop, public car parking. That doesn't necessarily mean that council has to control that car parking, but at the moment we do. There's a lease in place till 2030, in which we lease that rooftop car park at $2,500 a year, so it's fixed for the full term of the lease. The building owner, probably in response to their tenants, wanted to have free parking on top of there. So through a lease variation, there was an agreement that a building owner would pay us around $9,000 a year, which was calculated based on the potential revenue that we would collect if we charged for that parking. That has worked well up until now, and that variation agreement has now expired. It expired a couple of years ago. Yeah, the building owner has continued to pay it, but has now indicated that they're not prepared to pay any further, and this lease agreement will cease effectively. So the car park goes back to the master lease, which is we still control it, but we do have an option now of charging for that parking. At 2030, we will have the option of actually withdrawing from that lease completely and passing that car parking over to the building owner. We don't have to be involved, as we did a number of years ago with Central Mall. when that lease came up, we said, no, we've got enough. We walked away from it. So, yeah.
Yeah, just a question, Andrew, around it. It talks about us being responsible for resurfacing, etc. What sort of money is involved in that? Because I'd imagine that's really expensive on our...
Yeah, that's a liability of around 50,000 every 5 years.
Okay. And when someone hasn't, Elliot might be in the room, just ignores and hasn't re-signed the lease since 2023, where are we at? There's no legal standing for it, is there? I don't know. Okay.
We've been on that month-to-month periodic lease until they had not confirmed that they were withdrawing until now.
So now we could technically charge for that?
That's correct, yeah. But what I'm saying is that there's a further report that's going to come back to council reviewing the way we charge for parking, what sort of time limits, meters, etc., and we'll bring that through. So I think that needs to be brought into the mix.
Do like it being free, but it doesn't make much sense for council.
Yeah, we are still, of course, getting revenue from infringements.
Alrighty, so this is just receive the car park report, and there's another report coming. So any further questions? No. Councillor Parker, happy to move. Councillor Jackson, happy to second. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. 9.10, we're really getting into the exciting stuff now. Annual plan. Welcome, Andrea. 9-month financial. On 337.
Thank you, Mr Chair. So you will note that this is an update on the 9-month financials. You will be well aware that you haven't actually received March results as yet. So due to public holidays, a lot of people chose to take the time between Easter and Anzac off. Obviously an audit issue, we have a lot of high leave balances, so it was encouraged that people took that time. Being 9 months, we put emphasis on actually getting a forecast prepared as opposed to commentary around the March results. So from a March perspective, we will circulate that document once it's been reviewed. March had a positive profit, accounting profit of $741,000 for the month. So we had a deficit of 5.5 in February and a surplus, or a stored deficit, but of a deficit of 4.7. Now, in March, there was an adjustment to some interest rate swaps, at a credit of 641,000. So majority of that profit movement within March was associated with the interest. So you'll note that we're looking at the forecast and as part of this process. The forecast has not moved significantly from the December forecast. There has been ups and downs in different areas. So we're still looking at a 7.6 deficit at the end of June. Any questions?
Councillor Pye.
First of all, I have a comment to congratulate the team on the continued effort to find operational savings, which has been a great result. My question was going to be, why is this only a summary, but you've answered that. After that waste workshop this morning, what I encourage you for the next report is to be looking at the explanations and see if they're making sense, because and I didn't notice this at the time, but in that waste one, we went from budget of 2 million of interest to 200,000, and the explanation was cheaper interest rates. Well, we can't have saved that much in cheaper interest rates, so there's something else going on. So it would be really, really good to, so that we don't have hundreds of questions that can't get answered at council meetings. If somebody's reviewing those reports and going, does this explanation make sense?
There is some work to be done around the interest charges, because you'll probably find in other departments it's higher. So there could have been a budget issue with the allocation of interest at that point in time, because it was, once again, the budget was set prior to the annual report being finalised, so there's different movements that happen.
We need to understand that, because then I kind of find you get all these explanations, wasn't budgeted, budget somewhere else, and then you don't know where you're at. Yeah.
Councillor Shannon.
Just a quick one, but it might be explained with people be away and what have you. But when you're going through the likes of the expenditure and the contractors, subsidised roading, etc., down to other activities, and then when you get other minor categories, over 21 million worth, that'll be more transparent next time.
So yes, that $1.4 million is made up of 1,000 lines. So, yeah, hence it looks like a big number, but actually there is numerous items, ups and downs within that. So we've tried to pull out the high value, high interest topics, being contractors, consultants, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, Kushkin.
Sorry, we were talking about this too at some stage, and I'd be remiss not to highlight it, but the community really need to step up on the use of email addresses for council comms, because the postage is frightening.
Yeah, it's criminal, almost, those costs, isn't it? Yeah.
On page 339, on your debt number there, you've got forecast total revenue and then net debt and a percentage. It's showing the forecast budget, but not actually the actual, which is 134 million rather than 147 million.
Yeah, so that you'll see that in the March paper.
Right.
Yeah, because this was just looking at a forecast as to where we think the revenue will be, and we're forecasting that we may have to borrow some money between now and the end of the financial year.
But haven't we sort of forecast that we're going to get to about 134 million or something like that?
No, it's decreased now to 132 million.
Okay, so that number...
December was 134.
So the budgeted rev should be, why can't you correct it on that page and then show what actual, our ratio actually is based on our income?
Do we have?
Huh?
So the net debt, so the total revenue is 132 million, net debt 200 being 151 forecast.
Right, okay, well, I was just looking at, it's just on that page at 147, that's all, that's right, okay.
So the first column is what we had budgeted, and then is it okay?
Far enough down.
Right.
Is that budget correct? 182,000 net debt? Because we're miles behind on our capex.
That was the net debt, that was budgeted at that point in time. So in the March results, you'll see, the current net debt of $178,504 as at the 31st of March. Because remember, this paper was forecast.
We got, I see there, 235 million is actually the debt. Therefore, we've got, what, 50 million in cash somewhere. Is that right?
At this point in time, we've got $30 million worth of cash.
Righty, happy to move. Councillor Parker, thank you. Councillor Oliver, any further questions, discussion? No, put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against carried. 9.11, council investments and borrowing.
Thank you, Mr Chair. This is a standard receive and note report based on a report that Bangkok do on a quarterly basis, just to make sure that we are following our revenue and financing policy and our treasury management policy.
Any questions regarding this team? No, before I ask for a yep. No, you're right.
Trying to read my notes. So, and now I just have to make sense of the note I've made, sorry. So we must have, the scores, total cash investments of council is 29.15 million, but our strategy is just to maintain 10 million. So if I've read that properly. So the cost, depending on what figures you use for interest charges and interest received, but the cost of that is potentially $690,000 a year of us holding more cash than our strategy. Is this just a moment in time, or is this an ongoing thing? Because that's a massive cost to hold that cash.
So it is a moment in time, but we also have liquidity of 110% maintain for our GFA purposes. So we've currently got $20 million, 10 million sitting with ANZ and 10 million sitting in Westpac, and they're getting about 3.5% return on that. So instead of investing those in short or long-term, bonds that we can't break, we've actually just left them in those accounts with those interests. So that interest is just building up accumulatively in there.
The difference between that and our average cost of debt is actually not as large as what I probably base my calculation on. Thanks.
Yep.
Perfect. Happy with that? Move it. Councillor Burt, Councillor Booth. Further discussion? No. Motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Against carried. Thank you, Andrea. We have no urgent business. We'll go to minor nature items. The first on my list was Councillor Piddington. Do you want to jump in just in regard to the showgrounds and the culvert article, I think?
I guess it's my favourite hobby horse, but the developer in this morning's Herald was very magnanimous to say it's nobody's fault, including his own. So I'm just wondering where we are with the culvert, the intersection, and everything around that with NZTA.
Through the chair, yes, I've read the article and can confirm, having reviewed the resource consent conditions, I'm not really sure where the confusion has come for the developer. The sequence is that we sign off on some detailed engineering design for the intersection, and then and that occurs before stage 2 on-site works, notwithstanding earthworks. And then after that, before work in the state highway, we and NZTA sign off on detailed designs for the intersection and detailed designs for the culvert extension. And that condition was actually requested by the developer in 2020. And so I guess the theory is that the shape of the intersection will then have a flow-on structural and design requirements with regard to the culvert. I've reached out to my NZTA colleague about perhaps this is an opportunity for us to jointly remind the developer of these clauses.
Yeah, I guess, Elliot, I just don't want to see him somehow starting stage 2 without him having done this through some sort of backhanded extension, because the public are getting rather frustrated by it all.
I've raised these conditions with the developer, and that was a number of weeks ago, so there's timely for us to go back and work on that. But it is clear that the work on stage 2 cannot begin until that first step of the actual engineering design for the intersection is signed off.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Any liability to us there, Elliot, or are we exposed in any way? Cost-wise?
With the consent authority, it's a state highway asset. The change is coming about through the developer, not in any direct way, from that from that deal, if that makes sense. I mean, it's not our asset. We're not causing any changes to it. We do have some infrastructure in the subsurface area, and I believe that we're getting on and dealing with that. And the relaying of those pipes is at a depth where there shouldn't be any, future impact, but can't really say with that subsurface stuff.
Already all good with that? We'll go, yep, cool, perfect. Now, Councillor Scott, the next one was Caroline Bay Master Plan.
I have seen and Mr Dixon has emailed me back, but it didn't really satisfy what I'm asking. So the Caroline Bay Master Plan, now I understand from Andrew, was completed was it a year ago? Last year, I think a year ago. And it hasn't gone out for community consultation or anything like that. It's just been finished and put in a box. And in the Venture Timaru's statement of intent, they are supposed to have picked it up and implemented it. And so my question is, what is happening? And now they've been told not to touch it. They were hands off. So who is in charge of it? Who's taking ownership of it? And basically, everyone in this room talks about it being the jewel in our crown. Well, what are we doing?
Sorry, question.
My question is, who the heck is leading it?
No, so that's a question, but clarifying question for you. So I sits with it. It said to direct VT eventually to pick it up as, which seems, it does seem.
So it was in the VT statement of intent to pick up the master plan and implement it on behalf. So it's come out of there because there's strike-throughs for us if I put my VT chair's hat on. And because we were instructed not to do anything. So my question is, okay, well, who is though? Because it's really important.
Yep.
It's a bit like City Town.
Yeah. If I could, yeah. So, the plan itself has been developed and it was consulted on among stakeholders last year as well. And then it was produced into a final format. Now, there's a few little tweaks that still need to be made, and the document has not been socialised with the community at this point in time. It was passed over from City Town. City Town developed it in the first go. City Town project has sort of basically ceased now, and so they passed it over to Parks, and it is sitting with Parks at the moment. Parks, of course, people have been, busy in setting up the in-house parts unit, and it has been one of the ones that has, the ball's been dropped on it. So I will make a commitment to pick it up and get it out there and start to socialise it because it is basically ready to go. And if we can use VT, that's great.
Perhaps we just need a wee chat on it.
I think we need to have a look at it because if it's anything like the Highfield Golf Plan, it went out with millions of dollars of expenditure and we had none. So I don't want to send another plan out. I think we just need a workshop to look at it, see what it says, or something like that, a small group look at it. Because I don't want to go out with these grand ideas and we go, oops, no money, thanks very much. But maybe there's things in it the community can get behind. But I take your point, Stacey, I don't want it to be the third master plan from Caroline Bay that sits in the bottom drawer.
No, and I suppose I sort of get a little bit frustrated when, Andrew, you go, oh, that's great to hear about VT. It's in their statement of intent that has been signed off by council. And then they just get told, take your hands off it, it's not you anymore. And I'm a bit like, okay, but whose is it?
Yeah, give it back. Or let's circulate it and we'll pick up a time to have a conversation on it. I mean, that, to be fair, in the first instance, could be just at governance only time, if you like, and then we can go from there as far as an action. But if you could circulate it in the first instance, that might be helpful.
I'll get it circulated tomorrow. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So next one, Councillor Scott was, sorry, I've got a couple, regional deals, infrastructure fund, airport extension question, I think was, had that been submitted? Yeah.
Okay, so if we just separate those two, so regional deals, I understand that the EOI did not include any details on what might be included in a Canterbury regional deal, which I think is being led by the Canterbury Mayoral Forum. And okay, that's fine. But I just wanted to know, so Mayor Nigel, you are the chair. Who else do we have sitting in that room to advocate for us? Because I know as a chair, you're busy with all these people, but who's flying the flag?
Yeah, so it's a great question, and we're having that discussion, obviously, on being pulled in two different directions on the conversation around Canterbury versus, sub-regional, and sub-regional is a possibility. And so I think the work that we're doing, and there's a paper coming to the Mayoral Forum on the 30th of May, I think it is, to sort of discuss next steps, because there has been a request for funding to further the work across the Canterbury region. I think at a really high level the work's really good, and I've got some stuff now that we can have a conversation locally. And also as we move forward, my concern is that it was interesting, and something that I thought all mayors across Canterbury would want to put their hand up and be involved in the governance group. There's only a handful, if that, and Mackenzie and Waimate aren't represented there either. So one of the actions is to get the three councils together again, so we don't miss out. And so I'll send the high level stuff to you. And so I still think wherever we land, the Canterbury one has to be very focused on the sub-regions, and or the sub-region comes out. But I think the sub-region is going to be dependent on us working together on things such as water. To answer your other point around who else is on there, Nigel Davenport is on there from an economic development point of view, and there's about 5 or 6 in that working group, along with some others from ECAN and other parts. There's quite a decent group as far as capability, and I'll share also, I've got some examples now of some other regional deals that have been submitted through to government. Personally, I think, and the feedback is that they're a bit wishy-washy. There's not a whole lot in them. They were rushed. Hard to know what they're really asking for. So I think the actual approach to taking a longer period of time makes sense. Also, we're probably, wherever we land, we're going to have something more concrete, probably an election year, which I think is a benefit, whether it's for Canterbury or the sub-region or both. And then it's something that you can play the conversation with both parties through election year around, or all parties, should I say, around, a plan for Canterbury. So, but I've got some information now that I can share, and we'll tee up a time in the next couple of weeks was the intent.
I was just concerned that you have such a major role to play, and that, is it a deputy mayor's role to be the advocate on the ground? But you seem to think, no, you're all good.
Oh, no, but I think we need to, it's at the stage now is to get us together, including the other councils, to really firm up what we want from it.
Okay.
Whether it's sub-regional and or Canterbury, because I don't want us missing out, and I don't want the other councils missing out either.
That sounds good.
By the sound of it, you were over the Canterbury one, but we really need to identify some sub-regional opportunities for ourselves. So we've got something, even a runway extension and stuff there, the simple stuff.
Yeah, and it's not just...
Stuck in the pot.
Yeah, and it's not just, the way we've approached it, it's not just on projects. So it's on policy, it's on legislation, it's on all those sort of things that can actually make the world go faster for Canterbury or South Canterbury. It is funding tools, it's, congestion charging, all those tools that might sit in the transport space. It's all of those sort of things, tolling on bridges, that sort of thing. What are the things that we want to advocate for? And there's a lot of stuff that actually sits across transport that there's a lot of work that Regional Transport Committee has done previously that our team, Andrew's team under Susie, etc., have fed into it. So there's a lot of cool stuff sitting in the RTC stuff that we need to pull out and have a conversation. But that period is in probably the next 2 months. We need to sort of feed into that now. Yeah. But then to your point, your question around moving on from the airport extension, the question was, has that gone in from our teams? And I don't believe that has yet, Andrew. That's being worked on, is it?
It's for the Regional Infrastructure Fund. Because again, I am unsure who is leading that work for the airport runway extension, because 1 minute it was VT and now it's not.
Yeah, the work has been led by myself. We have done a high-level design of it. We've got some detailed costings regarding it to start framing up a business case relating to it. But it hasn't gone any further at this stage, but just noting that the Regional Infrastructure Fund is about resilience and enabling funding, so it fits to that. But the government's initial focus is on flood resilience and Maori economic development at the moment. So we do need to work with those priorities. So, but we will get a business case done up. We'll get an application in. But yeah, the other thing I also
don't want us
note
missing out.
is,
You know, this is really important, getting this
Yeah.
money into our region, and this project was identified, and you know, just I want to see this happening too.
yeah, that's right. And we do have the runway extension, funding signalled in our long-term plan. The Regional Infrastructure Fund is also, it's not grant money, it's actually loan money from the government. So it's not as attractive as perhaps the regional deal money. Yeah. So we still have to pay it back, we still have to fund it eventually. So.
And there are other, we can talk to it later, potentially in PEX, there's some other opportunities that have come up recently, potentially for that funding that we're working on as well. So sorry, I'm just looking at my list. Does that cover that for now? Councillor Piddington.
Just interested how much longer it would be, Andrew, and what the cost is.
I don't have that information, but I can, distribute that later tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think we'll also have to be very, we put the application in, we've got to be clear what are they going to charge us for this loan. Yeah, exactly.
It's got to be under 3.64. The thing, though, that sits in here, I think, is your point, Councillor Scott, is that when these opportunities arise between us, and I think this sits across ED as well, we need to be able to put resource to it to get things going in a timely manner. That means at least we're part of the consideration, and if we're not in, we're not in. We've only got a couple of things to go. One thing we didn't, I'm just going to touch on for minor nature. I'll follow up with Chris Thomas in regard to that theatre fundraising, just so we can keep that action moving forward. I think that was it in public. Nothing further. Otherwise, we'll move to public excluded. Oh, sorry, Councillor Parker.
Just from public forum, just a thought that Barry that spoke about Claremont Road, I think his requests are pretty fair, and I think there's been a fair amount of time spent on this. So I'm just putting the thought forward that maybe this should be placed on the infrastructure action register for the Claremont Road speed and for the clean-up, so then the process is documented and it's communicated and its outcomes.
I love what you're thinking. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah. No,
Just on that, we don't need the permission for clean-up, so surely... Oh, okay. But I guess I'm saying it'd be good if we could get that done really quickly to show we're listening.
Yeah. And Andrew, you might be able to answer, but I'm not. I don't know. Is it our land? We've been told that it's our land, but where the plants are you aware?
From my understanding, it's on that Barton Road corner is the issue, where a bit of vegetation growth there and it restricts visibility. It is. Yeah. It's a nasty corner.
It is a nasty corner. But is it our piece? Is that road reserve where all the planting is? Do you think?
Yeah, well, that's what I would need to check.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be council responsibility because our reservoir site is on that corner as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll certainly investigate that one and we'll do some action as quick as we can. Yep. And
Yeah. No worries.
I've just got a quick question for Andrew. Andrew, when we decided to change the speed through the Woodbury and Peel Forest townships, we actually did put up some temporary signs while we waited. How is that not the same as what they're asking for here, and can it be done?
It could be done. There is provision under the speed limit setting rule to put up a temporary speed limit for up to 6 months, but normally it's maintenance related issues is the reason. So with Peel Forest with the heavy trucks going through, there were some maintenance issues, so we used that excuse. In this Claremont Road, it may be a little bit of a longbow to pull. Yeah,
A little bit of maintenance on the corner, I think. So
yeah, well, the corner is speed advisory sign anyway. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's a classic case of an enabling. Who's going to complain if we do that?
Yeah, I think we've done it in a number of cases. We also did it on Pages Road and moved the sign. Yeah. The consequence is that it's not enforceable by the police.
Yeah, but
if
you hadn't said that, Andrew, no one would know that. You know what I mean, though?
No, I agree. And unfortunately, because I met with Barry a month ago, and the process, internal resource, we've got lots of other requests as well. There's got to be some consultation, I believe. So the process is arduous, as it always is, and so.
Take some posts out and some signs and bang them up. Sorry.
Here we go. No. Okay, that's all right. Well, yeah, perfect. Okay, so Councillor Piddington and Mr. Trainer, you've delegated to sort that out. On that note, I think we'll move into PX to confirm these minutes. I'm happy to move. Councillor Burt, seconder. Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you if you're listening online. I appreciate you being with us. And we've just got some minutes to confirm in public excluded.